All right, well, welcome everybody to episode 8 of the RF Generation Collectorcast. As usual, I'm your host, Duke Togo, and joining me at a nice sleepy night here tonight is Krabby. How you doing, Krabby?
Doing good. We finally had our first snowfall that actually stuck up here today, so it's a good thing I got my winter tires.
Oh, really? Already?
Oh, yeah, we've had a few snowfalls, but they haven't stuck around for more than a day. Now it's finally sticking around, I think.
We finally got like a little cold snap that has kind of hit us, but I mean, like yesterday it was like 80, like today it's like 50.
Jeez.
But I can feel you. But yeah, I'm sure you'll get the snowblower out pretty soon, right?
Yeah, we already did.
I don't envy you any. And of course joining us also is Bill. Hey Bill, how you doing?
Hey, pretty good. We don't get hurricanes very often, but we're preparing for one right now.
Yeah, you got the Frankenstorm coming, right?
Yeah, it's weird because you don't. I mean, I used to live in Florida, and you kind of expected like the odd tropical storm every month or so during hurricane season, but it's weird being in Connecticut and seeing the map of the storm kind of coming straight towards New England. So went out tonight, tried to find just like a basic generator, just for the fridge and the stove, just in case, and nobody's got them. So people are kind of going crazy up here. So just kind of preparing for what next week. It's either going to be awful or nothing will happen. So we'll see.
Or you'll be running the next podcast off a generator, right?
Yeah, it'll be the Free Dog show.
Now, how many miles from the coast are you?
It's not too terribly close to the coast. Like we're probably like maybe like 25, 35 miles from Long Island Sound, but then beyond that you still have all of Long Island kind of blocking so it's not direct ocean, Connecticut shore. It's got kind of like Long Island Sound in there, so but we are pretty close to the coast of Connecticut, but not the Atlantic Ocean.
All right, so somebody do the conversion for me. What would that be like, Krabby? Like 50K or something? I don't know. It's a kilometer, 60. I don't know. 150.
Yeah, it's I think it's 14 pounds.
Dear everyone else in the world, we Americans suck. We don't know how to do the conversion. Sorry,
Nope.
We're kind of a selfish lot.
I went to Canada, and I'm going 100 miles an hour.
Oh.
And
No,
Sarah's
you were-
like,
you were
and,
going- we were
and Sarah's like, I don't think you're supposed to be going 100 miles an hour. I was like, no, it's okay. I just passed that sign.
You were waiting. Well, here's the good news: is that the Mounties on horseback could never catch you.
Nope. Fortunately, it wasn't for very long. I think I was actually on my way up to 100 miles an hour, and she was like, those are kilometers, right? And I was like, oh, okay.
It does make you feel pretty excited though when you go from the U.S. over into Canada, and like suddenly the speed limit is just gigantic.
Yep.
It is kind of cool just to see the numbers. Like, yeah, I'm going 90.
Legally this time.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh. Well, guys, just as always, a couple different places you can find us. We are on Twitter. Well, we've got a pretty good little Twitter following going there, but you can find us at Collectorcast. We are now also on Facebook, so if you're a Facebooker, you can just find us, facebook.com/collectorcast. We actually have our own web address, guys. I don't know what you think of that. Maybe we're moving into the late 20th century now. But you can find us just at collectorcast.com and also collectorcast.net. Either way works. As usual, of course, we're still on YouTube. You can do a search for Collectorcast. Still on Stitcher Radio, so you can find that at stitcher.com/RF Generation. And wow, man, this show we've got a lot of major pickups from people, right?
Oh yeah.
The whole show could just be things that people have picked. Like we normally spend a lot of time on small scores, which is one of my favorite threads on the site on RF Generation, but there was just so, like, we're a little bit late recording this month due to various scheduling things, but there is just so much stuff this month. It's amazing.
Yes, I don't know what you guys were doing out there, like just busting open piggy banks, or if this was some kind of weird competition or something, but I kind of had to make a little joke that, man, everybody had to stop. We were never going to get a show done. So I will just say this. There was such a huge volume. If we missed anything from you in this episode, we are deeply sorry, but we don't want to make it a 7-hour podcast. So.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't say if. We should say we are going to miss
yes,
things.
We
are going to miss cool things. And if we did, just throw something on any one of the various threads or sites that we have the site on, and we'll try to make it up to you if we can.
Sure, yeah. Just you can just send us a tweet and tell us how much we suck for forgetting about you,
and then we will retweet it.
we will beg forgiveness. So I wanted to start off one of the said it a million times, not a big box guy, but Hungry Moose came away with just a really fantastic one, right?
Oh yeah, could have been even more fantastic from the sounds of it, though.
Oh yeah. So he went to there's a store locally, and he picked up a beautiful box copy of Scoon, right?
Yeah, and from my understanding, that is one of the hardest games to find complete in box for the NES.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. There was one. Someone had one on Nintendo Age for auction. I think 2 or 3 months back, and they had a starting price on it of $500. It was
whoa!
It was in near perfect condition, and I remember everyone seeing that and wow, dude, that seems like a little bit high. And a whole bunch of people were kind of saying, that might be a bit much. And the guy kept saying, don't worry about it. Someone will jump on. I know what it is. And then without fail, it took 5 or 6 days into the auction, but somebody was like, all right, 500, there you go. And I was like, wait, what? And then and then more bids went in on it. And I said, I had no idea that thing was, I guess the biggest thing is the condition. I mean, I guess you can find those in, kind of okay shape, but that game in really nice condition boxes, it goes for big money.
Yeah, it's kind of like the black box titles. You either find them really beat up or you don't find them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah, but apparently the lady who brought in these boxes, this lot that this game came in, had them all sealed, and she opened them up because she didn't think they would want them sealed.
Oh.
And in that game sealed, yeah, if you think it's $500 to $700 complete in box, just imagine how much sealed, because I think that's one of the rare sealed ones too.
You know what's funny is I talked to him about that, and he said, I'm kind of actually glad, because he said there's no way I could have afforded to buy it if it was sealed.
Yeah, and I'm glad he got it.
So wait, did she know what she had when she sold it?
No.
Okay.
No, because it was just a local store close to me. I mean, he lives in Indianapolis, not too far from me, and it was just he bought them at a local store.
Wow.
And yeah, I guess since she thought that it's a used game store.
Man, I mean, the one time though, I brought I had a sealed game that I think I got as a gift, and I didn't want to try to do the no receipt exchange thing that everyone does at Walmart or Target, even though I do it too. But I'm just going to trade this game in, and I went to a GameStop or whatever. It was hey, just give me whatever it is, the $2-3. It was in an older game, and they were yeah, we can't take this, it's sealed. And I was like, okay, I'll just open it up. They're like, no, we can't take it. I would know that it was sealed. And I was like, really? I don't know if anyone else has run into this, but I said, I'm just gonna go to another GameStop. There's 7 other ones right around here. It's yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so, I think I would have to look them and say, you guys open new games.
Yeah, I think it's an anti-theft thing they have going on. So it's if there are people out there I have no idea. It doesn't. I'm just trying to rationalize any reason why they would do this, but it's just the one time I brought a sealed game in hey, I just want store credit for this. They're nope, sorry, can't do it. Yeah,
no. Whenever you try to, I've always heard whenever you try to rationalize, you're telling rational lies.
Yeah.
So there's no sense in that whatsoever.
All right. We're getting sidetracked on the first thing here. We gotta keep going.
So who's next then, Krabby?
I love this next one.
Is that Shiboni?
Oh yeah, I love this game, and I love that he got it for $3.
Rico.
Yep.
That's a sweet one.
Okay.
If you haven't played this game, it's not for everybody. It's a little bit slower paced. It's not terribly long. You can probably beat it in one sitting. But if you can grab a copy of Eco, which has been re-released on that Eco Shadow PS3 collection, it's just a beautiful game.
Never played it, but
really, I've actually flipped a couple. So the next one I find is coming your way.
Okay. I've never Never played it, but I would
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I tell people this all the time. Like, it's one of my favorite PS2 games. It is not for everyone.
Yeah.
There are going to be people who pick it up, play it for 20, 30 minutes, and say, you know what? I don't get it. I think this is terrible, and that's fine. But it's, you know, if you're into a game where you can sit down, kind of get lost in a world, and have the game not explain to you how to play it, it's a great experience.
So you're saying that the people that would just get tired of it and say, "No, I'm going back to Cod Blops 2 or whatever," right?
Yeah, I've like nothing against those people, but I've literally never met a hardcore first-person shooter fan who cared about this game.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
It does, yeah.
Okay, and then moving on, right? We had Burning Toys, and
Love that name.
I like the username there. And he found, I mean, it was kind of sort of open, but really it was a packaged Wavebird controller at $7.
Yep, doesn't matter. $7. If that thing was loose, that's a good deal.
Didn't they just like slit a piece open to steal the AA batteries out of it or something?
Yeah, I mean, it looked like the thing was basically, I mean, yeah, it was just had like a little cut in it. So,
yeah, I'd
wonderful deal.
be more than happy with $7 for that.
Yeah, I've only got one. I still need a few more.
Excellent. And then Grey Ghost, he got a few things in, right? Did he get some stuff from some of his coworkers? Some really excellent titles in there
For free.
I think
too,
I think I ended up it might have been I can't remember if how long ago it was, but I know that I sent him a DS game. He asked me if like what I wanted for, I had a Mario Kart DS on my for sale, like without a number on it or anything, and he threw me a number. I said, you know what, it was a little bit low, but you've really, I've noticed some of the deals and some of the things he's given other people. So I said, yeah, you can have it for that. That's great.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
fantastic.
a fairly new member, but he's making a great name for himself with his trades and freebies, and it's just awesome. Can't wait to do something with him in the future.
Yeah, and he got like a real, just a nice big bunch of stuff, all free from like a son of his coworker. I mean,
Yep. So you see, it just proves you're a good person. You're a cool dude. That stuff's gonna come back to you.
you better believe it. And he got a couple cool DS games, right?
Oh yeah, that Nine-Tailed Demon Fox was probably just salivating over them. Hey?
I mean, fashion studio and a makeup artist. I mean, that's some top tier right there.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that beats that is Pets with a Z.
Yeah. Was it the collector edition makeup artist, or was it just the regular edition?
Yeah, it had I think the makeup set that came with it, the whole thing.
Oh man.
The pocket mirror. Another new user that's fairly recent sites, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, but I'm going to say it's Bernard's.
I'll allow it.
What would you say, Dill? What would you say about that one?
I think you were right about where I was, Bernard's, because you can't go. Yeah, there's really no other. Yeah, I'm trying to think of another Bernard. Nope, that's it. Bernard's. If there's another way to say that, congratulations.
Maybe, I don't know.
Bernard's.
You can't do it. But he picked up some cool Genesis games, right? You got Shining Force 2.
Mm-hmm. Always a good one.
Complete, which I love Shining Force. I like the original Shining Force, not the newer stuff. The old Shining Force, I love those.
Yeah, so for some reason the Genesis ones have always eluded me. I played 3, but yeah, still gotta grab 1 and 2.
You need to go back and find those for sure. And the Sega CD one, very good.
Oh yeah, I can attest to that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And he also picked up Ghouls and Ghosts, which I think much better on the Genesis than on the Super Nintendo. That's my opinion, and I'll stick with it. And he picked up a Saturn, right? So we got a couple games and a Saturn with a couple controllers. So welcome to the Saturn Club.
Nice little starter.
And he grabbed, Bug's one of those weird games. Like I posted like a while ago, like on Facebook or Twitter or something, that I grabbed a bunch of Saturn games this weekend. And like 3 or 4 people were like, "Oh, did you get Bug?" and I don't look back at that game as like anything that with any significance. I just remember it existing and just a kind of a generic platformer. But it actually, I was surprised to hear a few people like, "Oh yeah, you got to get Bug. Bug's the jam."
Well, it sold well enough. They came out with Bug 2.
They did.
I've always thought of that one kind of like Bubsy. It's just everyone's played it, but unless it was the only game you had, no one really liked it.
Yeah, I kind of lump it in there with Gex. Remember?
Gex.
Ugh. Yeah, it started on 3DO, I think, and just kind of ended up everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
and not to get sidetracked, but this conversation's been had by a lot of people before, but it must be really, really hard to make a really, really good platformer because there are so many mediocre ones out there.
yeah, I think if you're not Nintendo, just move on. Just let the people that know how to work do their work, and just do something else. That's fine. The world needs more Call of Duties, right? No, I don't know, something else. Anyway.
You keep bringing that up. I wonder if that's a sore spot.
Yeah, I've got a friend and his wife, and yeah, they're raring to play some COD Blops too, and
yeah, I mean, like, it's to each his own. It's not personally not anything that I would care to put my time into.
Yeah, if we get time later, I got a little anecdote too, but we'll leave that for now.
Yeah, I don't have anything against that. It's just I'm like, there's some other games. I'm like, oh man, do you want to get this and we can play? And no, man, I don't have any money. We want COD Blops. I'm like,
all right, so Barracuda with a pretty good little pickup there. Massive lot from a collector. He said about $200.
Yeah, and it's like this. I mean, we don't have time here, but you can go on the thread and look. Just this huge list of stuff.
Page 460 if they want to check it out.
Yeah, I think that's what we have it on.
Yeah. I mean, just stacks of stuff. He got all sorts of different systems and games. And then he got, like, he did the deal, right?
Yeah.
And the guy called him back later and said, I feel bad for charging you $200, and just gave him $50 back.
And that was like a Craigslist deal too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
I'm waiting for that call. Craigslist people, wherever you are, I'm here.
It really is crazy because it looks like 6 or 7 different posts. Like you keep scrolling through it, and at first you're like, oh, this is like 8 different people's things. And it's like, nope, that's just all the stuff from this one person.
He must have just cleared some guy out. I mean, completely.
Oh no, he definitely bought everything in this guy's Rubbermaid containers in his basement.
Yeah, I've never had someone from Craigslist call back and say, look, I feel like I overcharged you.
No. Yeah.
And then just say, okay, here, take the money back. I'm waiting.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen one of these days.
He also picked up, and I know it was for the PC, but he got him a Box Miracle piano.
Yeah, that's a really neat one.
Yes. Yeah, and same thing. I saw Box Miracle at a Goodwill not too terribly long ago. They wanted way too much for it, so I passed. But as he pointed out, I mean, it's just it's the same hardware. It's just some of the different adapter cables that can throw it into the different systems. So if he wanted to throw it on a Nintendo or Super or Genesis at some point, I mean, the adapter is probably tricky to find, but it's the same hardware.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a good way to go about it if you're trying to pick one up. I mean, the NES cart's dirt cheap, and just trying to source the cables is going to be the only trick.
I think Shadow said that he's actually parted several of them out before. Cause he said it's much easier to buy a near complete one and part it out, or buy several near complete ones, keep the pieces you need and part the rest out. I think he said he covered the whole cost of it doing it that way because you get more for individual pieces.
Makes sense.
That's something that I really hope to find locally, so I don't have to deal with shipping that thing up here.
Yeah, it's especially if it happens after January.
Yeah.
Yeah. In case anyone hasn't heard, the United States has decided to start a war with Canada. With their shipping costs. Some of the shipping costs are going up anywhere from like 30 to 150%, depending on the weight and the type of mail.
Yeah, it seemed like the average was kind of around 80% price hike.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Canada. I mean, I think that's a bum deal. I don't know why they're doing that.
Yeah.
They're doing that so I can buy more locally instead of buying from you guys.
That's it. They're trying to support the Canadian economy, right?
Or the struggling smuggler economy for all the people who are trying to drive games over the border.
They're going to build like the tunnels under the Gaza Strip or whatever, right?
They have to, yeah. Vancouver, like Toronto, those are all going to become like hotbeds for smuggling games.
Yeah, the Vancouver Seattle underground game.
Well, moving on, Fleech, who is also a kind of a newcomer.
Welcome.
But he found a Mega Drive at Goodwill. Right?
I just imagine some like very nice British family visiting the United States, and then opening the suitcase and like, I'm sorry, I can't do a British accent. What is this? You're supposed to take this out of the suitcase before we left. Oh, let's just bring it to this local charity shop. How else does that get naked here?
I don't, or was it a Japanese one? I don't know if it was PAL or Japanese. Did he even know?
I guess I didn't pay attention to that either. I just assumed it was a PAL one too.
Yeah, I got no idea. I mean, I guess it could have come either way, but just, man, how random would that be?
Yeah.
I would love to do that. And then he also picked up Mario RPG and Secret of Mana, $10 a piece.
Yeah.
I feel really good about the number. Like, we have a lot of members who have been lucky enough to find Mario RPG for $10 or less. And this is not a poke at Duke, who I think Duke's found his fair share of deals. Let me just put that out there first. But yeah, you gotta add an S when you search for NES on Craigslist once in a while, Duke.
That's why I'm missing it. Doggone it.
And then Nine-Tailed Demon at like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do with this guy?
I'm having a good time with him.
He's got some exquisite taste. What are you talking about? I mean,
I hope he doesn't mind, because I'm really having a lot of fun with him lately.
I mean, who doesn't appreciate some good, possibly bordering on the illegal Mary-Kate and Ashley Sweet 16 action? I mean,
you know what? You pick a niche and you go for it. Give him credit. He is going for it.
Those games need a home somewhere.
They do.
So I'm glad that it's not an incinerator.
I can't remember if I mentioned this on the podcast or just you guys talking before, but that game's actually a guilty pleasure of mine that I rented once in like high school, and me and my friend had a blast with it all weekend.
Like as a goof, like, oh, this will probably be really stupid, and then you were like, wow, this is great.
Yeah, we kind of had this thing where
Kate.
every time we go to rent a movie, we'd rent one we wanted to see and one that looked horrible, and we do the same with games once in a while. We'd rent one that just looks stupid, and then one we wanted to play.
Absolutely, yeah. Bad movie night, bad game night, totally.
All right, whatever, crap. We know you were like plastered your room with like Mary-Kate and Ashley posters and stuff.
So Krabby, so you got Mary-Kate and Ashley. What was the bad game that you rented? So Demon Fox redeemed himself by also grabbing not redeemed himself because Mary-Kate and Ashley are awesome, but he also picked up a Gray Zelda cart and StarCraft 64, $2 each.
And,
nice.
And more recently, he picked up that huge TV on the side of the road for free.
Yeah.
I actually, believe it or not, it's not as, I mean, it's not common, but it's when I was working at Best Buy, the installers, when they went to install a new TV, they would haul away the old one. And we didn't keep it or sell it or give it away or anything. Like, we actually put it right back on a truck that would come like twice a week, and they would like recycle the TV, like, bust it up, break it down. So the drivers would always ask, like, hey, like, since we're destroying that TV, like, do you care if I take it? And it wasn't against any rules or anything. We checked and we're like, no, you can have it. So, I mean, every once in a while, like, there's just a great big TV that's, the installers could take. So finding one on the side of the road is just as nice.
Especially when you just picked up your copy of Mary-Kate and Ashley to play on it.
That's right. Although, I don't know, is that a GBA game? Does he need like the Game Boy player hooked up to that thing?
I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
No, I think that's a PlayStation game, isn't it?
Really?
Yeah. That's pretty sure that's what I rented it on back in the day.
What do you know? And then kind of coming back, I mean, Seavers 2, last month kind of just returned out of the blue, and he got some good stuff this time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I mentioned it before when he kind of came back from the dead after not being here for a little while. But he had that great story a while back how this guy was selling like, I think it was like several hundred complete Nintendo games, like $5 each, and he made several purchases from that guy, which I would have done as well. Ended up getting this complete action set for $20. And I think the story was this was a what do you call it, a yard sale. And it was like an early bird deal, and he showed up, and there was tons of people there, and he was like, oh, well, it's not going to still be there. And then it was just back sitting on a table somewhere.
Yeah, and a bunch of complete games in there too, right?
Castlevania. What else was in there?
I would just be happy with the nice complete Castlevania.
Yeah, that's one of Duke's favorites.
Yeah, there was a few other ones in there. It's really fantastic.
I was lucky enough that when I first started collecting, I told like a buddy of mine, he was like, oh yeah, I got some stuff like in my basement. I'll get it for you. And I went to his house, and it was a bunch of pretty good stuff, but probably the coolest things were complete Castlevania 1, 2, 3.
Mhm.
So just right when I started, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool to have those like right off the bat.
Yeah. I remember right when I started, you got to, find those trilogies that you loved when you were a kid, the Ninja Gaidens, the Castlevanias, the Marios. So that would be really awesome right off the bat.
Yeah, I was very lucky to get all the, like, it's same thing with Ninja Gaiden, like, kind of right off the bat, so very cool.
Now, Techie413 found some nice stuff, too. I mean, again, is it just, it's everybody but me, isn't it? It's just everybody but me.
Told you, you're not trying hard enough.
Most likely, yeah.
So we got a nice complete in box Mario RPG for $30.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations, that's really good. He also got some junky 32X games, but we don't really need to talk about those.
No. He got no. You don't understand. They're misunderstood. It's cool. I did ended up doing a deal with Techie. I'm sorry, I can't remember if we mentioned this on the last podcast or not, but he sent me. Remember we were talking about Parappa a while back?
Yes.
And how I thought my Parappa collection was getting close, and then you guys just like started firing off more obscure titles.
So we had to stomp on your dreams, Bill. Yes.
Yeah, I had to. It was debunked. And he ended up contacting me and just throwing me the Parappa PSP, Parappa the Rapper. So that was very cool of him. So I ended up throwing him, I think it was NFL Quarterback Club. I think I shot him, and then a bunch of other stuff as well.
So why do you hate him to send him Quarterback Club?
Well, but like it was actually, I had 2 of them, and I just wanted to spread that love around, so I sent him my second copy.
You want to say, thanks for this awesome game. Here's some crap.
Thanks a lot, you jerk. No, Tech's cool. He was my first thing we ever did together was about it was last Christmas. He was we were Secret Santas.
Oh, cool.
Well, we were Secret Santas until we found out that we were each other's Secret Santa.
Then you were just Santas.
And then we were just each other's Santas.
Yeah, I hope we do that again. That's a lot of fun. I had a good time with it last year. Yeah,
I did too.
Now he also got a lot more complete in box games, including a Chrono Trigger, right?
Complete man, he got if that's the lot I think that you're talking about, the one that's I think it was a little bit later, like that it had what was it? Was it like Mario Kart 64? I think was in there.
Was like a Breath of Fire?
Yeah, Breath of Fire was in there. A couple Majora's Mask were in there. Ocarina was in there. Just a big bunch of great stuff.
Yeah, that's good. And then he got a Game Boy Micro, which I would like to pick one of those up at some point in time. Wouldn't spend a lot of money on it, but I'd like to grab one.
I thought you had one of those.
I don't have a Micro, but it's not one of those things where I would spend much on it. I think it'd be fun if I could find one pretty cheap.
Yeah, same.
Yep.
He also got a lot of Famicom games, so a nice little assorted lot of stuff in there. I think a lot of people this month took advantage of Sensei Man's kind of going out of business sale and got some lots.
Yeah, so there's like half a dozen of them popped up on the thread there in the last month.
Yeah,
I contacted Sensei and I got a price, I got a quote, and I just ended up with the new place and everything just not being able to make something work. But I'm glad that a lot of people were able to take advantage of that.
Oh yeah, and he even picked up like a little portable Famiclone, so it's like a little portable Famicom. They can play with. I've seen them online on some Chinese sites, so I'd be kind of curious to see if it's high quality or if it's any good. But it looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then so this is not video game related. So
it is
Bill, you're a board game guy, so I'll let you take this next one.
Oh, what you mean my my not video game related or someone else's not video? Because there's a few.
Oh no, I'm talking about BuildStar.
Yeah. Oh, okay. The Zaxxon board game.
Yeah, now what's this?
I've actually never seen this. This is this was new to me, which believe it or not, like anyone who kind of like plays board games more than just casually knows of the site Board Game Geek. It's really the only like major site for where board gamers go and kind of have forums and reviews and buy and sell and trade. It's kind of like the RF generation of the board game world. And their database of board games, it's over 61,000 games.
Wow.
So there's definitely like the staples that everyone kind of knows about, like in the American scene, the Euro scene, and then the ones that have been around forever that everyone knows about. But there's so many random like cool ones thrown in there. I'd never seen the Zaxxon, so this is kind of a cool thing for me to look at.
It seemed like there was several of these kind of games floating around back in the 80s.
Yeah, I personally, when I was a kid, I had a Pac-Man one and a Donkey Kong one.
We had Berserk when I was a kid.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's interesting. The Donkey Kong one was kind of cool. It had like a little plastic Donkey Kong, and you would like load barrels into him, and then when you like pushed his arm down, it would like set a barrel down. It was kind of cool.
Neat.
It kind of didn't last very long, but it was cool at the time. Neo Magic Warrior, he got a lot of items, but he also got him a Nomad for $10, right?
Nomad's awesome.
Nomads are cool.
Yeah, Nomads are great. That's,
I've had a couple chances to pick one up, and I've just held out because I really do kind of want a boxed one. But I have owned several Nomads, and they're definitely cool.
Definitely. I would say probably the biggest score of the entire month had to be Single Banana.
Yeah,
right?
and this one I'm really happy to see because he's a big pinball guy if you guys weren't aware. And he, like, over a year ago, I think it was, he let me know that his, like, dream machine was to find the Bram Stoker's Dracula pinball. And he was showing me all these videos. It's got some really cool stuff where some magnets move the ball around and float around really neat. And he finally found one. And not only did he find one, he found one that's in, like, perfect collector's condition, like, totally restored for him, and just looks amazing.
Yeah, I love pinball.
See, I never got into pinball machines. Like, they were cool, but I never really kind of, went gaga over them. But it's the same thing, like, just reading how much Banana wanted this thing. And then, like, I went to the site that he posted of, like, here's some info, some videos on, like, how that, like, magnet ball thing works. Like, I'm so happy that he's thrilled to own this thing.
Yeah, like, it's his grail for pinball collecting, and he's gone through more pinball machines than I've probably played in my life just in his house. And yeah.
Well, yeah. You look at the picture that he posted of the side shot of it, and you can see the rest of his collection.
That's actually the buyer sent him that picture. That's from the guy that owned it.
Oh, that's
before.
okay. Yeah. That's the guy who had it.
I think
gotcha.
he keeps around 4 or 5 in his house, and he rotates them. Like, he'll play them till he gets bored, then he'll restore one, sell it, buy a new machine to replace it. But I think this one's going to stick around with him.
Oh yeah.
He now he also picked up some Famicom titles. Now, not just he didn't just get a random lot. He got some higher quality titles. He got a copy of YY World 2, which if you guys aren't familiar, YY World was kind of like these Famicom games. There's 2 of them that came out, and what they did is like this just kind of collection of Konami characters all in one big game. So you have like Simon Belmont and all these other Konami characters just jammed into one game. So it's pretty cool. I've got those, so that's a good one. Nice pickup there. You got Tetristar, which is kind of a cool little fighter. Armadillo, which is this odd little platformer that's pretty good. So those are some really cool some Famicom cards he got. And looks like he picked up some TurboGrafx stuff too.
Yeah, filled in a few holes in his TurboGrafx 16 collection. I think he completed Bonk's Adventure, JJ and Jeff, and Splatterhouse now.
That's pretty cool. I don't have those. I've got just mostly shooters for TurboGrafx. So
that's mostly what there is on the TurboGrafx.
That makes sense. It's fantastic though. It's really good at it.
And then lovable Grey Ghost that we already mentioned helped him out replacing a missing disc he had on his Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, and when the story that didn't he say like went to his house or like where he grew up or something and went and like had the game but just was missing that disc or something?
Something like that. And yeah, it didn't take long for someone to throw a disc at him and fill it in. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Very congratulations, man. That's a big month. So who else is on the leaderboard next?
Well, if we're going in order, we have a list here. But if we're going in order, I'm still holding out my personal favorite. As happy as I am for Banana with that machine, there's something coming a little bit later. But for now, we'll talk about the dude who I messed up his name and his avatar.
No, maybe I think he's got his own stuff wrong. You were right, Bill.
Yeah, he is totally a kitty. And Kid A is a reference to a kitty. So, yeah. So Kid A, who's definitely not a Radiohead fan, Super Metroid and Pokemon Pinball thrift store, $6. I appreciate the specificity here. $6.44.
We don't round up on our F-Gen.
No.
Look, man, you're trying to get the bottom dollar. Every penny counts.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's, I mean, Super Metroid, again, like, being and this is not an age crack on anybody. Being an older gentleman myself.
Oh, okay, give me a break, Bill.
Sometimes I have to remind myself there are people out there, like younger people, and even older people too, who have not played like Super Metroid and like, Link to the Past and like some of these, the games from like the mid 90s that like, I kind of regard as some of the better ones that I've played. So anytime that any like younger, or like younger than me anyways, collector can grab a copy of Super Metroid or something like that and play it, it just makes me happy.
Yeah, I would say if you've not played Super Metroid, that should be on any gamer's must-play list.
Yeah, doesn't matter. I don't care if you don't like shooters. Like it just doesn't matter. Like there's a reason Metroidvania is a thing.
Yeah.
And it's and when people say Metroidvania, they're talking about, I think anyway, they're talking very specifically about Super Metroid and Symphony of the Night.
Yep.
Like to me, those are the aspects of Metroidvania that made that a genre.
And you'll notice that Metroid comes first. It's not the other way around. So it's not correct. It's not Castleroid.
Castleroid.
See,
Thank you for finding the name of this episode.
I'm not as big a Metroid fan as you guys. I would definitely not put that on my must-play list.
All right, Krabby, you're wrong, but let's move on.
And so being that we're looking for new co-hosts on the show, just submit your email to Duke@awesome.com and we'll see what we can do.
And the one qualification is you must really like Super Metroid.
And Mary Kate and Ashley, I'm looking at you.
I only got 1 out of 2. Damn it.
All right, so another person that took advantage of Sensei Man's Famicom deal was
my favorite member to pronounce. So please let me go ahead with Blickle Blisk.
Blickle Blisk.
Good old Blickle Blisk. Got him a nice set of Famicom games. So congratulations. I'm glad to see the sickness spreading. That's,
you have any personal favorites in that set, dude?
I think a lot of the stuff that everybody came in was like a lot of just the standard common stuff. So, I mean, nothing that was like, oh my gosh, those are really fantastic. But, I mean, everybody's just starting to build a really good library just in the randoms.
Sure.
Now, Mr. Zach Norch, or
pretty good month.
Zignatch, or whatever we're calling him this month. He got him a few things. I want to particularly say that he picked up Pinball Hall of Fame, like the God Lead collection. I love those games. That's a really good one.
And was it on your recommendation there that he grabbed Coda Princess?
I had put that article on RFGen. I know other people have raved about it elsewhere, but I hope so. I need to get his, like a friend code or something. I need to play somebody with some Coda Princess.
I noticed I was going to say, I noticed just recently, too, he's one of the big Skylanders nuts over here, so he was pretty happy to pick up Skylanders Giants finally, and a bunch of extra swag with it, too, like the guides and things.
Yeah, and I have to say, I absolutely loved his Optimus Prime mask, or whatever.
Someone had to had to get us back on track there.
So getting to what's it called? Shadow's care package. Long story short, Krabby visited with Shadow earlier. Was it this year, Krabby?
Yeah, it was back in February.
Yeah, so earlier this year, went down there, hung out, went to a couple, did some hunting together, which is probably great. I was there just last month on a business trip. Weren't able to hunt or anything, but we did end up getting together, having dinner. It's always cool to see him when I'm down there. And he ended up, as I posted in Small Scores, gave me a couple black box games, which was an amazing surprise, and like an NHL T-shirt from EA, and just a really, really cool care package. So I'd been kind of planning on sending him something back, and Krabby contacted me and said, "Hey, how about a tag team?" So I tagged Krabby in, and then we ended up sending him this, among other things, like some Master System games that he'd been kind of eyeballing for a while. This Sonic the Hedgehog hat that I got at the Sonic Boom event a couple of years ago. It was like a 20th or 25th anniversary Sonic event in LA, like around the time of E3 a couple of years ago, and they were giving these hats away. So I've had it for a while. I don't really wear it. I'm not anti-Sonic, but I'm not like an enormous Sonic fan. So I kind of threw it up like a picture of it a while ago, and he was like, "Ooh, I'll take it." And I just kind of held on to it for a while. So that picture sparked a revolution.
Yeah, so he would model the hat, and then yeah, Zagnorch had to get in on the game with his costume.
And for everyone who doesn't know, because we were on Skype at the time when we first saw that, and I can't tell you, like, you guys have heard Duke laugh before, but I don't know if you've heard the level of laugh.
I haven't even seen it today. I'm just thinking about it.
And I said to him, I was like, "Oh, you guys see Zag's picture you just posted up?" And both of them were like, "No, like, what are you talking about?" So I sent it to him like in a Skype message, and Duke explodes. It was so good.
It's perfect. I don't know. He got it.
Oh man, that was fun.
Thank you for the levity. I have to say, if any of you that are listening to this are not on RF Generation, you ever want a good laugh, come over to the site and read some of Zagnorch's posts. Always keeps me entertained.
All Zag all the time. Yeah. You're feeling down, have a Zag.
Yeah, and if you ever want some fun too, he usually like every time the show comes out over on RF Gen, he does like this minute by minute like playthrough of the show.
The highlight reel.
And
I love that.
Transcribes at this minute, and then like he'll say something about what's going on or make some comment. And I'm like, that should be like the mandatory thing that you have to go through while you're watching the show.
Well, because like I don't normally listen to the show afterwards because I live it. But when I see that, like, he writes that thing, okay, like, here's my highlights from part 1 of the show. It makes me want to, like, I want to go listen to that. That sounds awesome.
It's almost like it never happened for you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, but that's hilarious. I mean, if you guys haven't seen the picture, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Now, speaking of Shadow, not only did he get some of that stuff, he got something else pretty major, right?
Oh, yeah, someone new popped on the site mentioning, everyone should play their Vectrix. On November 1st, they're doing this big Play Your Vectrix Day. And, it's kind of an obscure system. Not a lot of people have one. And then not only did Shadow pick one up, he picked one up with, 14 complete in-box games with it. It's like half the library. It's nuts.
Yeah. And I don't know. I've only played, a little bit of Vectrix, but it's a pretty cool little system.
I've never had the chance. It's on the top of my want to buy list.
Yeah, I would encourage you guys. I mean, I think I've already mentioned before, I almost bought one, but it's a pretty neat little system. Very unique. I mean, obviously, you've never seen anything like that.
I've never played it either, and I'd be really interested in getting one.
Absolutely. So if you guys, next time you're at a con or anything, I'm sure you'll probably find one sitting around somewhere. You stop by and check it out.
Yeah, like I think PAX Prime and PAX East, they both have like retro rooms, and there's one in Philadelphia that we're exploring right now called Too Many Games. That's in June, so I know they're all about retro. So yeah, most gaming cons you go to, you can find some of that old stuff just to kind of like pop in and play real quick.
Oh sure, and definitely like Classic Gaming Expo, probably like the Midwest Gaming Classic, and then you've got all the big stuff out on the West Coast. So definitely, if you get a chance, check it out. Pretty cool.
And if you live anywhere near me, be prepared to travel to get to any of these things. There's nothing up here.
Well, no, if you live anywhere near Krabby, then there's Krabby's Gaming Club.
I got no Vectrix though. Sorry, guys.
And he picked up one last thing. I think he found like a little NES top loader for a friend of his at the flea market, right?
Yeah, I think
he finds lots of those.
I wish I could find more of those, but yeah.
Yeah, but he actually, the first time I went down to Florida was when he gave me my top loader.
Oh, cool. I
gave him like a Sega rental case and I think a Wonder Dog, like a cardboard Sega CD Wonder Dog.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that was a very cool trade. I ended up trying to send him some more stuff. He's usually good like that though. He really tries to be the best giver of stuff. But yeah, for some reason, I don't know if it's a Florida thing or if it's just the people around him, the way he hunts, but he seems to come across top loaders pretty frequently.
There's a lot of good flea markets. Like, he just took me what was close to his new place when I went up there, and we went to 3 really good flea markets, and there was still tons more in the area that we didn't hit.
I'm going to guess that being down south, just being warm kind of all year round, probably just makes a lot of more of that stuff available.
Probably, because like I said, I was there in February, and it was still flea markets everywhere you went.
Yeah. Now, see, where I'm at, I mean, I'd say probably there's a few that are indoors that kind of run all year round, but there's a lot of the open ones that are kind of just summer only. And then, PWP Cody, I haven't heard from him in a little while. He just showed up with some pretty cool stuff, right?
He teased us for a little bit before unloading his pictures on us there.
Yeah, what did he get?
Oh, nothing really.
It's just some crud.
I think he got a Mario Duck Hunt and Gyromite and like 3 zappers.
That's all you need.
It's like that's all I got.
No, he's one card away from a full N64 set, right?
Yeah, he said he just won the auction for International Super Soccer 2000.
Yeah, and I mean, how was it like? And was that a rental? Was that the deal?
I don't think that was a rental exclusive. I think it just sold poorly at the end of the life cycle type thing.
Yes.
Yeah, because on the N64, I always hear about that one. I always hear about Sculptor's Cut. And then there's like one other one, isn't there, that I always hear about being kind of hard to find?
I think those two are the big ones that kind of jump out at most people.
Yeah. So, yeah, congratulations, man. One card away. That's... I don't know how you don't get really tempted just to say, forget it. I'm just going to go below the money and get it. You know what I mean?
$300, yeah.
That's where I'm at with Spider-Man Web of Fire.
So close, yet so far away. Right?
Yep, it's my last one.
Very cool. And what about you guys, right?
Well, we didn't mention PWP Cody's other big lot. This nice little paper lot there. Your favorite, Duke.
Yeah, well,
that's probably why I forgot about it. So
here, you cardboard horse can talk about that one. You go right ahead.
So let me just read like a small excerpt from his post on this, which he did comment like it maybe should have been a blog post. It was kind of long, but it's totally fine. I don't mind reading something like this in small scores. So basically, he goes into this shop to pick up. There's a whole bunch of like NES game boxes behind the counter, and I think he said that he mainly collects carts. But just being able to see these boxes, he's like, oh, yeah, it's pretty cool. So he asked this woman, like, how much for all those boxes? And she's like, I don't know, like, how about $2 a box? And then he says, well, with his, negotiating skills, he says what he should have said. He says, okay, like, how about $1 a box? So, I think I'm remembering that right. But anyway, he ended up, I think he ended up paying the $2 a box. And, so 81 NES boxes for $160.
And what he said, like all of them, but like 3 came with the manuals too. Like everything was great.
Yeah, and what happens? Like it looks very, very similar to the. It's my guess, and I may have just skimmed over this. He might have actually written it. It looks like they bought out the remaining stock from a rental place.
Yeah, because some had like these big stickers and stuff, right?
Yep. And a lot of times rental places, they'll just slit the top plastic, which it looks like is the case here. They'll remove the game, like prepare it for rental, and then they'll keep the box and the manual, everything else separate. So, like when I sold that enormous lot of stuff from the video store that I used to work at last year, the boxes were all pristine because they still had the original plastic wrap on them. The carts had some stickers, which people could, clean off if they wanted to. The manuals, they did put stickers on, so that was kind of a hindrance for some people. But, whenever you can get, like I'm finding right now, like I've got like a good, like, 15-ish games that I need manuals for. So manual hunts kind of suck, because, the only real way to like get it now is kind of like to go the eBay route. So you pay a couple bucks for each one. It's really no big deal, but I just would rather not be on manual hunts all the time because like you want to get like 10 from one seller, but they only have 1 or 2. So you got about like 1 or 2 from like 5 different places, and you end up spending like $40 on like 10 manuals. So, but yeah, very, very cool to grab that kind of cardboard in that kind of shape for that price.
Like he didn't get anything like mind blowing in there, but he got a lot of good uncommon boxes in there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I can't begrudge him. I don't, I'm not as excited about cardboard boxes with no games in them, but still for $2 a piece, I would have bought them too, if nothing else. Probably
No, you're right. Yeah, I wouldn't be excited about those at all. In fact, I'll gladly pay $1 to take them all off your hands. So, actually, even better, I'll pay the $2 each, so everybody wins.
It's right.
Very, very cool.
And Razor Knuckles got some karma back too, didn't he?
Oh yeah. He got a little shipment, a little present from Zignatch, right?
Yeah,
Zignatch,
and Fleech. They both sent him. They all know he's into Sonic, obviously, with the Razor Knuckles name and the avatar. And and every second post is about Sonic anyway. So they sent him, between the two of them, they sent him all these Sonic comic books and like old children's like learning to read Sonic themed books, and it was really cool.
Yeah, I liked the little doodles. Every time Zagnor sends something to somebody, he makes these little doodles or little notes or something that he sticks in there. And I can't say on the show what his little jotting on one of those was, but let's just say I found it amusing. All right, so finally, can we talk about you guys? What did you guys get this month?
Yeah, you want to go first, Bill?
Sure. It won't take very long. I'm starting to come out of my collecting hibernation. We're settled in the place, and except for the what's it called, the impending hurricane, we're pretty much all set as far as like prepping the place and everything. So everything's clean. We got our bought our dining room table and everything. Oh, before we get too quick, just a couple days ago, Zignatch posted a very, very nice complete Metroid for the Game Boy Advance from the classic NES series.
Oh, yeah.
And it looks like it's like complete, like registration card, like, health and safety info and everything. And that's I just mentioned it because I thought it was really awesome. So, but yeah, so after I came out of my, my collecting hibernation, I was just kind of like browsing around, like see what I could, what complete NES games I could get, because it's been a little while. And I found a gentleman on Nintendo Age selling a whole bunch, and ended up picking up Heavy Shreddin', RBI Baseball 3, Sesame Street ABC, and Let Her Go Round.
Oh, yes.
Yep. Star Voyager, and probably the one I'm most excited about is Track and Field. So all complete for the NES. Track and Field, of course, being one of the last few titles I needed to complete my Konami Silver Box collection, which, I don't know how many people collect like subsets within systems, but I've always, found it very fun. Like the Nintendo Black Box games are kind of their own subset, and you get the Silver Boxes, and it doesn't always have to be a publisher, but it kind of ends up leaning towards that direction. So just a couple games left. I think it's what is it? Laser Invasion, and I think what Laser Invasion might be, because I picked up Gradius. So yeah, I'll have to double check just to make sure. But yeah, I'm pretty close to completing that. And then my non-video game score was finally got my copy of Eclipse board game. Came in from China, and it is mine now.
I don't know what that is, but...
Do you remember I sent you a picture that one time of that really big, complex-looking space exploration game?
Yeah. Okay.
It's seemingly complex, but it really, once you get the basics of it, it's really pretty simple. It's just there's a lot going on in it. So like I've said before, imagine like if you ever played Civilization, or if anyone's ever like heard of the game Civilization, like imagine multiplayer Civilization in space, and that's what Eclipse is.
Huh. So backtracking to your silver box, I'm very curious. So does it irritate you that the SNK boxes were also like silver?
It doesn't irritate me because I end up. I think I've got pictures in my in like the show your collection off thread, so you can kind of see how like my Nintendo ones are all together, and then it's really no specific order. I just kind of do them how I do them. Maybe I'll change it at some point, but all the NES black boxes are together, and then like all the like the Capcom, all the Konami, all the Ultra. And then it's just kind of everything else alphabetical. So what has a tendency to happen is once I notice a box pattern or a box style that I really like, that's when I move it and separate it into its own subset. So there's going to be ones that are similar. Obviously, like with something like a Claim and LJN, with that LJN. Same, with that kind of black with a rainbow kind of a color scheme. So I'm sure they'll end up next to each other at some point. But because the SNKs they're different enough. What's cool about the Silverbox Konamis is not just the fact that they're like silver on the spine, but when you look at the game, like just the front of that cover, that silver kind of starts on the edges and then kind of fades into the middle, and the image always comes out over the silver. And it's interesting looking at those changes from one game to the next. Like Contra, you have like the big kind of like flame that comes out and does it, and Track and Field, obviously it's the athletes. So I don't know, something just always been interesting about some of the box designs in the NES era for me. So I like finding designs that I like and then kind of stacking them up together.
You know which ones I really like? Is those
Yeah.
I like the Data East ones, like Karnov and Heavy Barrel and Ring King, where they've got like just the Data East on the top, and then that huge box with the picture that looks nothing like the game, like the old Atari kind of pictures.
Yep. Yeah. Trojan is kind of like that for me. Like I remember like taking a copy of Trojan and looking at the front of it and thinking, I have no idea what this game is going to be about. Like from the box art on here, but yeah, the Data East are pretty cool too.
Yeah, I think probably what my favorite would be like those original Capcom boxes where they had like the dark background with like that red and blue checkerboard thing
That's like
floating
Trojan.
in space.
Trojan's got that.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
and
Mega Man,
what was it?
Trojan,
I think
Gunsmoke.
Ghosts and
like
Goblins.
was it
Yeah.
was it Section Z?
Yeah.
Was one
Yes,
of those?
Section Z.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like. I don't know what on earth that stupid red and blue grid thing in space was supposed to be.
Well, it was like, remember when you were in, I don't know if you guys, but in grade school, there was always like, when you get your class pictures taken, there were like 3 different backgrounds. One
That's
was,
right.
like,
Yeah.
one was like puffy clouds, and then like you could tell like, oh, his mom made him choose that. Then like the next one, there's like another generic one, and then there was like the lasers, like those blue and red lasers behind you, and I was always like, Mom, please let me get the lasers, and she was like, no. And I was like, but this other kid, like, he gets lasers. And she's like, well, his mom is not doing it right.
Your mom
Yes,
just
I was a little
hated
older,
you.
so those were probably like my junior high school pictures.
Yeah.
Well, good. That's glad to see you making a little bit of a comeback, Bill, and picking a few things.
Yeah,
back.
a little bit. I had the title a few months ago. I definitely don't have it anymore. So I'm very glad to see all the people with all the great scores they've got.
Yeah, well, I think everybody's a little cyclical, that's for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no one's dominated for too long. So
What about
We should get a belt. Zignat, you hearing me? Yeah. If anyone can create a RF championship belt,
Oh, you've given him an idea. Now it'll never stop.
I bet it's gonna have like a spinner on the front with like a Nerf pistol.
No, I want that Optimus Prime mask head or whatever. That should be
Like
the prize.
on the belt. Yeah. Just bronze that and throw it on the front of the belt.
You know, it's funny actually. A little while, about a week or so ago, I met up with a bunch of Nintendo age guys that were local, and one of those guys being John White, which you guys will hear a little bit later in the episode when we do our interview with him. But they have a belt they gave, and it was for something, and it is like just one of those giant wrestling belts, but it just has like an NES motherboard, you know, right on the front of it. So that was kind of cute.
That's
You
great.
see, that's pretty cool. So, Krabby, you get a few things yourself?
yeah, it's been slow. I had to go in for kind of an unexpected surgery a couple weeks ago. So
That's right,
So
it's
it's
slice and
slowed
dice.
me down a little bit. Yeah, darn appendix was giving me trouble. So
Yeah, I'm sitting and I'm on the way to go pick up my daughter from practice or something after school, and then all of a sudden, like, I get this text from Krabby. He's like, "Oh, I can join the organ removal club or whatever." I'm like, "What?" So I'm like, as soon as I can pull over. So I'm like, "What? Are you okay?" Yeah, and then-
no one was coming to visit me in the hospital at the time, so I was trying to find something to do. Talk to
So-
one of you guys.
So poor Krabby's reaching out to me after he's
Yeah.
got slit open here.
So right before that, though, I asked Duke to track down a copy of Street Cop and Short Order and Explode for me because they were the last Power Pad games I needed, and I also really wanted to play them. And so he sent them to me, and I got them right when I need to get this thing chopped out of me. So I can't even play them for like 2 months now until I'm healed. So,
Oh, really? They couldn't bring it into your room?
no, I'm sure they could have, but I'm just not physically capable of playing them without opening wounds right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
So I gotta
You could just
heal up.
cheat like everybody else did. Just get on the floor and just slap it with your hands.
It's not the same.
So wait, are they not? They're not U-Force compatible?
I'm gonna have to test that out now. And
That's
then,
hilarious.
so I haven't been able to go to any of my stores for a little while. I've been kind of stuck at home for a while. But I finally
Yeah,
got
poor
out
Krabby.
to one of my favorite places. And he didn't have a whole lot new, but we chatted for a bit, and I asked him if he'd found anything off my list. He said no, but then he pulled out a big, huge box that had Killzone 3 Special Edition in it with the big, it's got the like Hellgast mask and the little action figure that came with it and the art book and stuff. So I ended up picking up that for $25, which is cool. I don't even like Killzone 3, but it's a really cool set. I like the mask
creepy
comes with
looking
it.
kind of.
Yeah. And then I think I mentioned it before, my local Zellers is closing down to convert into a Target. So they're selling off everything for cheap, and I ended up grabbing a few strategy guides for $2 a piece and a Guitar Hero toy that was still sealed for $4. So a couple little things here and there, nothing too exciting, but I haven't really been able to go out hunting for a while.
Right, but I think by the next show you'll have a little bit to talk about, right?
Yeah, next show I should finally have something big and interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll win the championship belt for once.
I think you might have the next month wrapped up, unless something crazy happens. But I don't know. Maybe somebody will whip off stadium events out of nowhere. But we'll see.
Maybe you'll finally find that Super Mario RPG for $5.
Maybe. I doubt it at this rate.
I don't know if it's the time of year, if it's been the same for you guys, but I have just found Craigslist to be obnoxiously overrun with people like resellers in my area, and also just crazy dry. Like, and it might be that time of year. I find that springtime tends to bring some more stuff, but the last few weeks I started back in my routines of checking the sites regularly, checking the Craig's and a few other avenues that I go to, and it's and even the guy who runs the local retro shop that I bought a last bunch of 32X stuff from, the World Series baseball. I was there the last week, and he said, dude, have you found anything lately, like Craigslist, anything? And I said, no, it's been months. And he said, dude, I don't know what it is. I'm not finding anything these days. So I don't know if maybe we have too many people listening to the show and all the great tips we have on how to find games, but that's got to be it.
Oh, we quit giving the secrets away, dang it.
Yeah. So what you do is you just go to eBay and you just buy. Buy
it now is the way to go, folks.
That's how you do it.
Just whatever the price is, who cares? Buy it now.
Yep. What research? Research what you should pay? No.
I have a sales thread. You could just come and buy me out. That's fine. Well, I had a little bit of a busy month myself. I jumped in on that same deal that Sensei Man had, so I got 30 Famicom cards from him, and then I got a game gifted to me. So Addicted, who's kind of fairly new on the site, he said he had an actual extra copy of Dragon Buster 2 sitting around. Asked if I needed to have it. I said sure, yeah, just really appreciate it. So he sent that over to me. He said really very cool. Thank you very much. I also had ordered in like a month or two ago, like a massive lot of Famicom games. It's one of those deals where you're buying like 100 carts at a time. So I finally had the rest of that come in. I'm still working on the cleaning and kind of going through all that. And some of you, if you've been over to our Facebook page, you can see like the boxes that came with these huge things. And so I ended up with some dupes. I'm kind of dealing with sorting through all those things right now, but some cool things. I won a little auction over at Nintendo 8, so I got a couple of the Fun Club News issues that I've been kind of hunting around for a while.
Nice.
Those are always kind of fun to go back and look at and read what was just thrilling at the time. Maybe now you're like, okay.
I need you to have some sort of paper weakness.
Yeah, okay. Not for tons of that. Yeah, you got me there. I also did a trade with Ninetail Demon Fox for he had a Turtle Beach headset, for the 360, and my wife.
So you gave him your best Bratz games for that?
Yeah, I unloaded, and my wife here lately had been really griping at me because making too much noise while everybody's trying to sleep. So I'd been looking around thinking about getting something like this anyway. So when he put it on his thread, I was like, that's just perfect. So we worked out a pretty good deal. I was really pretty happy about that. So thank you very much for that. Also, speaking of another trade that I did, I traded Noise Redux. He messaged me. He was interested in that XI or whatever we decided to call that last time.
Yeah, I think that's what we did.
And he traded me this complete Hyperboy, which is it was Japan only. It's an accessory for the Game Boy, and basically the Game Boy just slots right into this thing, and you put batteries in it. So it's got a light and a magnifier for the screen to make it bigger, and then it has like arcade style controls. So you have like a stick and buttons, and it actually actuates like these little things that press on the actual Game Boy buttons. So it kind of turns into like a little arcade unit.
I've got a similar thing that came out over here that Radio Shack produced, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's like, like the Game Boy like goes inside of it. Like, at least on the one I have, like it goes inside, and then like it's got like kind of like an arcade stick and buttons that when you press them, they just press the buttons on the on the Game Boy inside of it. So that's cool.
Oh yeah, I've not seen that one. Like this is like this really big kind of pretty good sized unit. So that's really cool. It is really so new looking, and like with the cardboard and I've been kind of afraid to even take it out. So I don't know. I've not ventured that quite yet. I also, just like Zagnors, I got my copy of Code of Princess in, so I was pretty excited about that. It's very good. If you guys should pick it up, and if any of you out there are listening, maybe I'll get around. I can post my 3DS friend code, or you guys can send me a message if you want. If you guys want to play some Code of Princess online, I'd definitely like to do that.
I think we have a friend code thread, don't we?
We do. I think I posted in it, but in the way that it works, like friend codes, don't you have to have each other's for it to work right?
Yeah, I think so.
Correct. Yeah. So you would have to put in you have to put in theirs. They have to put in yours. Once you both put in the friend code, then the person shows up on your 3DS.
Right.
So once you go on and get someone's, then you have to just make sure that you kind of have to exchange yours. So it's like a bit of a process, but there are some rumors that Nintendo may be doing away with that. So that's a step in the right direction for them.
Yeah, absolutely. But if somebody's got that and they want to swap, there's a lot of different ways to get a hold of me. That'd be pretty cool. I'd like to do that. I also picked up a loose copy of Shining Force 3 finally. I've been looking for Shining Force 3 that was not ridiculously expensive for a very long time. So I was really pretty happy to pick that one up. I've not played that one. So Bill, you said that's the one you have played?
Yes.
So is it really good?
I remember enjoying it.
Good.
We talk about like rose-colored glasses a little bit. There's a lot of games that I remember being amazing, and then you kind of play them again. They're still good. Like they're still like fun. They're what you remember, but you're kind of like, wow, like I really don't remember it looking like this, or stuff like that. So I remember enjoying it. And
just one last thing I'll mention, specifically, just because Krabby, I know you'll appreciate this. I got in my the Famicom version of the Power Pad, the Bandai Family Trainer Pad.
Are you just trying to rub it in because I can't use that one either?
Yeah, and now I can say I can sort of almost join the Stadium Events Club too, because I've got the Japanese version of that now. So.
Nice. Let's have when I get better, let's have a race. Hurdles.
You'll destroy me, I have no doubt. But yeah, I got the pad. The thing looks almost like brand new, and like 3 of the games that came with it. So it'll be kind of cool to bust that out and play with it. I know that there's a couple guys over on Nintendo Age that are doing some reproductions of some of those Power Pad games, but for the NES. But you still have to have that pad to play them. So they're doing some translation. I'd like to check some of those out. They'll be kind of fun.
Interesting.
There was a lot of Power Pad stuff that came out of there. It was very different than what we got here, and seems kind of interesting.
Yeah, most of the games we got here were just kind of the same thing with a couple exceptions.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious to check it out. I mean, heck, if it gets my butt up, it's got to be more than like Kinect promised that it would get me up off the couch. Whatever.
Now you just yelled to turn on your Netflix is all?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think it's really convenient. If I have to give one thing to Kinect, it's that I can totally control it to watch my movies and TV while I'm cleaning games, so I don't have to like take my hands off.
I do that. I'll like walk around like the kitchen and just, tell it, like next video or like, whatever voice command I need. Like playing games, the Mass Effect 3 commands are as far as I've ever used voice in games.
Yeah, the Skyrim commands work pretty good too. But yeah, I just...
You know what's weird is I've got a pretty, I don't know if this is because of my speakers, but I've got a surround sound system. But like a pretty good one. Like back when I worked at Best Buy, I got a pretty big discount on some of the high end stuff. So I figured, whatever, I'm not going to work here much longer. Let me get a sound system. So the thing is, like every time, like just walking through the environment, if I turn the Kinect like voice commands on, I get a constant error, I can't understand what you're saying. Like, error, no. Like, microphone slash through, no, no. So it's like, and then you'll go find someone and they're like, so you want to go, error, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're trying to say to me, because like the center speaker of my sound system, the Kinect is on top of the television, like 4 or 5 feet away,
Yeah.
and it still like picks up that audio. So I don't know. Maybe I got to tweak it a little bit, but I haven't been able to get it to work as well as I would like.
Yeah, I would say I've got the same thing. I've got like a really nice surround setup in where I've got my gaming, and you can go into like the Kinect tuner, and there's like a calibration that you can do, and you turn it up pretty loud, and if you do that, it usually does a pretty good job of kind of weeding that
Yeah,
out.
that's a good point. 'Cause when I first bought it, I was in a different location. So now that I've changed rooms with the connection, I should probably recalibrate it.
Yeah, I think if you go through the tuner again and kind of give it some volume, you'll be surprised. Mine doesn't ever do that. It works pretty well. And I'm half deaf, so I keep the games pretty loud, as my wife would tell you. And why? And I have headphones. Wow, and I know we again have really parsed this down a lot. And so if we miss some of your stuff, just keep posting. We'll definitely squeeze everything in. And thanks everybody for making it a pretty exciting month.
Totally.
All right, well, everybody, we're kind of blessed with a special guest for this episode. So a little bit later on, we're going to have an interview with John White, who is the creator of Assimilate for the NES, a game that came out earlier this year, Homebrew title, and it kind of gives us a little opportunity to talk about homebrews in general. We'll talk more in depth about this maybe in a later episode, but kind of leading to this. Kind of how all this started out was, first off, they announced over Nintendo Age, John did, that he was making this new game, and you'll hear all about that in the interview. But I picked up a copy of it, and Krabby, you got a copy too, right?
Yeah, and you were nice enough to get you're both nice enough to get it all signed up for me. So John's put his little signature on the cart and box and manual for me. So it's really awesome. It's got a special place in my collection now.
Yeah, and you'll hear in the interview we talk a little bit more about the game and specifics and whatnot, but that was probably one of the big homebrew releases of this year. I mean, there's generally not, I mean, on the NES, I'll say that anyway. They come out, but there's usually not a ton of these things every year. I mean, I know, Bill, didn't you do like a reproduction of a game at one point in time that wasn't released?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really take credit for it since it was an NHL '94 ROM for the Genesis, which is still a very popular game among people who loved it back in those the mid '90s. There, it's still played like in college dorms and tournaments every Christmas in certain places. But I decided, I was just thinking one day, like, wouldn't it be great to play this game with the modern players on there, just kind of like all I was thinking was like, edit in the players' names so it just looked like the current guys were playing. And then I kind of just did some searching for it and realized that there's this group, or actually several groups, like who do this. Like they get together and they all kind of work on the ROM, but they go all out. They go like they do like the player they rearrange all the player stats. They get like headshots for every player. They change out the announcers like picture and name and text. They change the title screen. Like it's as much as EA would do in a new release of a sports game, back in the Genesis days. So I decided that I was gonna try to get one of these carts made. So I took a ROM that the guys on NHL94.com had already started, and I made I went through like 24 tutorials about like how to work with the graphics and the code and the editing programs I would need. And it took me a couple of weeks for something that probably takes like a talented programmer like 10 minutes to do. But I made myself a title screen. I added some credits. I changed some text. I added the home team announce for my favorite team. It was a lot of fun. It was a learning experience. And to think that there are people who just like do that same thing, but say, you know what, I'm going to make a game from scratch. It's mind-boggling to me, like someone who doesn't really know how to get started in something like that.
I think we may have mentioned before, there's also people I think that do that same sort of thing, but with like Tecmo Bowl every year on the NES.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yep.
They kind of do a ROM hack of that, and so yeah, I think reprogramming. I mean, even ROM hacks are pretty cool. I mean, definitely like you said, being able to say, hey, look, I'm just going to start from scratch and build something. And those of you that are not on RFGen, the Single Bananas did a couple interviews with some Vectrex programmers, right? Did you guys read those?
Oh, I love those. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they're great.
So kind of some ongoing homebrewer interviews with the guys that are making some Vectrex carts. I know just announced over on Nintendo Age, they're doing a Homebrew Championship 2012 cart. So it's going to be kind of like the Nintendo World Championship cart where it's got like the switches and everything, but it's going to be the same sort of thing where you race against time for a score, but it's like a bunch of homebrew titles.
Yeah, that's kind of a neat idea. I like it.
Yeah, they're doing like a limited run of some special edition ones, and then it'll be available for everybody on RetroZone a little bit later. So that's pretty cool. And speaking of RetroZone, there's a lot of great homebrew titles for sale over there, right?
Yeah, and I've dealt with them once before, and they were fantastic. Very good.
Now, Bill, have you ever bought any homebrew games?
You know what? I besides paying to put the one together that I did, I actually sent it over to Mr. Mark and Beaglepuss over on Sega Age. They do a lot of Sega like homebrew stuff. Like so, I asked him if I sent him the ROM, would he throw it together for me? So, but yeah, that's really it. I mean, I'm not as familiar with the homebrew scene as a lot of more seasoned collectors or people who are just into that kind of stuff. But it's a very interesting part that I'd like to kind of get to know more about.
So, does picking these up that are new games for old systems, does this appeal to either one of you, or is it just like no? The old games are what they are, and that's all I'm interested in?
It definitely appeals to me, but my priority is always going to be getting the licensed stuff first, with a few exceptions. And there's just so many, and they go out of print so fast, I never see myself going too crazy into them.
But ones that are for sale for a long time, that are really good, like Battle Kid.
Yeah, like those things are games I think anyone who loves the NES wants to keep exploring it should definitely check out.
And Bill, you're into Sega. There's been a couple of those. Like I know Pier Solar was a big release, right?
Yeah, and again, like it was weird. Like a lot of these things I just would have never heard of if I wasn't out there looking for a method to print out this ROM hack that I was kind of working on. So one of the things that I learned was, when I found the reproduction thread, was that like Mr. Mark and Beagle, they have this huge list of like the 15, 20, 30, whatever, however many games that they have at any given time. And they get lots of requests, and they get, these are mainly reproductions I'm talking about. Like as far as homebrew, like it's kind of like a mix because they're just like they're like a cart maker, like reprinter kind of a team over there. But yeah, I mean, there's really, I mean, it's you guys made fun of me for it, but like when you guys were talking about like Battle Kid and some of the other like the well-known homebrews, I'm just not familiar with them. They're just not on my regular radar. Like Crab said, like the licensed Nintendo stuff is kind of what I'm after. And anything apart from that, like if it's cool, if someone says like, "Hey, dude, you really got to check this game out. It's really awesome," then I'll check it out. But it's not the same as like the licensed stuff where I'm like actively searching, okay, what new homebrews are out there? Like what can I grab?
Yeah, and that's something I've lamented about in the past, and I've still not seen anything good. I wish there was somebody that would take the initiative to create a kind of like a website that would be like a hub for homebrew news. So, you no matter what system, people that program games could put their information out. You'd have like an upcoming schedule of releases. I know as saying this, then somebody will just say, well, why don't you get off your butt and do that? I don't know. I'm already, the three of us are already tying our funds up into keeping this show afloat, so I don't know about designing a site and hosting that. But I would really like to see that. So if any of you listen to this, that would be really pretty cool. It'd be really nice if there was one news source to go to, because it's kind of hard. Now you have to kind of just either hear about it randomly or just like dedicated, just try to track this information down over and over and over again, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure there would be a call for getting a hub for multiple systems, because it seems like everyone gravitates towards their own system. You know, the forums, like you'll have the Nintendo Age guys talking about the NES ones, you'll have the Dreamcast guys talking about it on Sega sites. It's really kind of scattered. I don't know if there's anything that would pull them all together like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be interesting, and I've heard it bandied about a few times, but I just don't think that anybody's gone the full step of making it happen. I'd like to see it. So if somebody wants to do that, because I would think that the people creating the games would like to have a place to advertise it, to a point and get it out there. So, and I'll also throw this out there that if anybody that's listening to the show, if you're making a homebrew game and, you'd like us to talk about it on the show, send me or Krabby or Bill, send us a message. We'd be happy to have you on the show, talk about your game. If you want to give us an evaluation copy, take a look at that. I think this stuff is really fantastic, that these systems have been gone for 20, 30 years. There's still new games coming out for them. It's just kind of a testament to how loved these machines are, right?
Yeah, when I found out that like a new Dreamcast game was getting like produced, or like a new there's something just interesting about like a full on release too. Like it's great when a card can be made, but like guys out there like Uncle Tusk, who I think you'll hear about in the John White interview, who's a well-known box and cardboard reproduction guy in the collector scene, for a card to be made, and for just like for someone out there like Tusk, who is a pretty prominent box reproduction guy in the collector scene, for you to be able to make like a full-on like cardboard manual, like the whole deal, like release and throw it in your collection is really pretty amazing.
Yeah, and some of these things, I was really astounded. I know it didn't get much traction on RFGen, but I posted over there that there is a new add-on for the ColecoVision that's coming out soon, like another expansion module, the Super Game module, and it's actually a licensed peripheral for the ColecoVision. However, 30 years after the ColecoVision was put out? I don't know how they managed to do that, but it's fully licensed. The box has got the Coleco name on it. You look, it's got the manual, the whole thing. So, for a collection site like us, once you get to the point where something like that, even this far out, is officially licensed, don't you think that kind of becomes part of that set then, even though it's been 30 years?
Yeah, it's some interesting stuff like that happening, like just with that, the Cheetah Man 2 thing.
Yeah.
And then that Neo Geo X system, like there's some weird stuff happening all of a sudden.
Well, I think people are just recognizing, hey, look, people are spending a lot of money to go back and play some of these old games. Let's give people an alternative if they want to maybe just play and not spend all the money to collect, if you're not a collector.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, it kind of appeals to both camps, I guess.
Sure. Do either of you guys have any interest whatsoever in the Neo Geo X?
Oh, yes. If I didn't slap down my money on a Wii U, it would have definitely gone onto there instead, and it still might. I got to decide quick.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think it will run out or something, or?
No, I just think it's a really neat system. I can't see it dropping too crazy right away because it's already a real niche. And then you get the pre-order bonus game is kind of the only incentive for me to do it really quick now.
Gotcha. Bill, you have any interest in something like that?
I'm like it's interesting. It's interesting to me. I don't have any personal interest in acquiring it, and it's not because it's not cool. I think it is really cool. But one of the things that myself and several others on the site have done recently is I'm really trying to focus like my collection, my cone of collecting onto my priorities. Yeah, so I've got a cone of collect. If you ever played Metal Gear Solid, you got a cone of collecting right in front of you.
I can see that, as you're walking around on the radar. There's just this. I only see this.
Yep. And it's like if you go to like a flea market or Goodwill or something, if you walk in and kind of look at everything, and it's you just got to narrow that view down to just what you're looking for. So I've said no to a lot more things recently. I've walked away from a lot more things. I saw a copy of a box copy of Killer Instinct at Goodwill like a month back, and I considered it. It was only like $4 or $5. It wasn't in great shape, so I wouldn't have resold it. I would have just kept it in my in the average area of my collection. But I said, you know what? It's really not a priority, even though it's only $4. I'm going to pass on it. So the Neo Geo, like when I heard about it, I was like, that sounds all right. Then when I saw it, I was like, wow, that looks way cooler than for whatever reason, than what I thought it was going to be. But yeah, I'm just kind of at a point where I'm really only going after the things that are like super on my radar right now.
I keep saying I'm going to do that, and then I end up with Duke CDI.
Now you've been laid up. How come you haven't been playing that thing more, Krabby?
Because it got packed away into my game room, and then we moved, or I didn't. I shouldn't say we. My wife moved a whole bunch of stuff into my game room for our renovation we're doing in the basement. So I really don't have much access in there right now, being as I'm too scared to lift anything heavy. So I tear my my newly
smart man.
Yeah, my newly cut belly. So I kind of have to wait until I get better, or my wife moves it out for me.
Well, I can't wait till the first time we get together. We can compare scars.
No fair, you got those cool old school ones.
Yeah, I look like I was in a shark attack or something.
Yeah, mine are all laparoscopic. There's nothing to show.
I got nothing.
Be happy.
Yeah,
you're getting older too. Don't worry. Your time will come.
I'll get that procedure sooner or later.
And I can certainly see, like Krabby with you. I mean, being a big Neo Geo guy. I mean,
I wouldn't say I'm a big Neo Geo guy. I'm just kind of discovering it. Kind of a newbie still.
Well, I mean, that would be just like if Nintendo came out and said, "Hey, look, we're doing an NES Model 3." I would go buy one. I don't need it.
Yeah.
But if Nintendo put an official one out, I would go buy one.
Yeah, like I just got my US AES system at the start of the year, maybe late last year. So I haven't had it all that long, and I still really want this. I don't know.
But you really like it, right?
I do, yeah. I love it. It's something I fantasized about as a kid forever, and it was just you could never afford one. I didn't know anyone that had one. I never saw one for sale in a store. It was just gaming magazines. It was the only place this thing lived for me when I was a kid. So it's amazing for me to see it coming out for sale again. As an adult, I can now finally afford it.
So I'm curious, back to talking about homebrews again. I mean, I know homebrews are typically software. We're kind of bleeding into hardware a little bit, but I mean, still, it's new things for old systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I'm going to be really curious to see kind of what happens with this ColecoVision expansion. I'm not a big Coleco guy, but that really fascinates me that you're going to get a new officially licensed add-on for a 30-year-old machine. So if it happens there with Coleco, wait for it to happen with something else. I really kind of scratch my head sometimes to wonder if Nintendo ever even stopped to think about how much money they could probably make if they went back and re-released them. Because you look at these like cheap knockoff systems,
right?
Like these retro duos or retrons or all these things that are out there.
I think you're really. I mean, we could get into a huge discussion about that, so I don't want to get like too far into it. But I mean, I think that line can be drawn to a lot of different things. Like I know your personal feelings on Final Fantasy VII aren't maybe as positive as a lot of other people's, but it's one of the things I hear all the time, like on Twitter and just talking old games with people, is does Square know how much money they could make if they actually did that? Final Fantasy VII remake people are asking for, and that kind of bleeds into so many other things. And when you start talking to these companies, like, hey, like, do you guys know how awesome you could, do if you did this? And the response that I get from so many of these people, that the ones that I've had a chance to talk to anyway, is, yeah, we know we could, but it's, I mean, very, very rarely do creators and, people who are like, making new things, very rarely do they want to go backwards. And that's, I think, where most of it comes from, which is why a lot of times when you get like a game that's like a port of a game, it's outsourced. It goes to another studio. Like, you're not going to take the same, like, creative geniuses who just made this great game and just have them spend 6 to 8 months porting it to another system. You're going to have them make something new. So I think that's one of the reasons why you see, you don't see officially made, remakes of things by a first party very often.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Square really pimps out Final Fantasy. I mean, how many remakes of Final Fantasy 4 have been out there?
Not that many.
Well, you got PSP, you got DS, you got GBA,
iOS.
you've got the original. You had the collection stuff on PlayStation 1.
Yeah, it's
You've
nothing.
had the Virtual Console releases.
Yeah, there's probably an iOS one.
There is
mixed
an
in there
iOS
somewhere.
one, yeah. So, I don't want to hear that excuse. Don't get me wrong. Probably, like you said, they've been outsourced to some other people, but,
Right.
Just saying. I know if small-time people like RetroZone can create carts and it has to be profitable enough to do it or they wouldn't,
Right.
hello Nintendo.
Yeah, I asked a guy who used to work at Sega if and I knew the answer for you. I was just curious what his answer was. This guy used to be head of content for Sega of Europe, and I asked him, what are the chances of Sega, me being all up on this Neptune joint, what are the chances of Sega kickstarting the Neptune? Like, again, yeah, they're a company that has like relationships with like publishers and like hardware manufacturers and everything, but all they would be doing is using Kickstarter as a gauge to see, are there enough people out there who want this old thing for us to put the money in to make it? So what better way than to get the money up front from all the people who be interested? And the answer I got back was pretty much what I expected. Is he said, he can't imagine a circumstance where a major company like that, with all those relationships already made, would ever consider using Kickstarter, because if a major company like that would go that route, he said there would be lots of problems with those relationships. So yeah, it's one of those things that, like, if it's going to happen internally, organically, or by like fan outcry. But I mean, there's definitely a market for a lot of that stuff. It just doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, well, I mean, I look at the growth of homebrew titles on the NES and the Vectrex and the 2600 and the Intellivision, and these systems aren't dying. They're not going away. People refuse to give up on them, and obviously you can look, there's a market. You look at these, like I was saying, these Retron systems, they're still putting out hardware. You can still get clones for the NES and for the Famicom. And
those Atari Flashback things, those sold like crazy a couple years ago.
Yeah. So I guess we're probably moving a little away from that topic, and maybe we come back to that at some point in time. But I mean, it still is this whole same idea of new things for old systems, right?
Yeah. Right.
So I mean, even some crazy stuff like Halo 2600, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was at CGE when that launched, and I played it. I'm not a Halo fan, so I mean, I appreciate the act of doing it, but I'm gonna be real honest with you, it's not very good. I didn't think, but then again, I'm not a big 2600 guy. Again though, there's a lot of love for these machines that are out there. So I played, and I guess this was kind of maybe a port, but I played Sinistar on the 5200, and it was fantastic. It was really great. I know, like, every year, RetroZone does like their Christmas carts for like Nintendo and Super Nintendo, and they have like lights and everything that are in them.
Right.
Those are neat little things.
Yeah, I'm definitely, I've said over the years, I'm going to get one this year. I don't care. There's gonna be a sparkly cart sitting on top of my Nintendo, one way or another. You'll hear in an interview that's coming up. We're going to talk to John. John obviously took the time to program a game from scratch, and you'll hear our interactions about that. But we'd also like to hear from you folks too. So, what are your thoughts on homebrews? What do you think? You like them? Do new licensed things belong in a set from a system that's years and years old, or is this something that's totally different? Feel free to chime in and let us know. All right, well, we wanted to take a moment to interview a homebrew developer on the show. Gentleman has created his own game, has it up for sale, has sold a few copies and done pretty well with it. So let's welcome aboard John White. Hi, John. How you doing?
Hey, Duke. Pretty good.
Glad you could take a moment to be on the show, and fantastic that you took the time to create a game. So hopefully, if you don't mind, we're going to pick your brain for a little bit about it.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
So first off, John, do you just want to tell us maybe a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm 31, live in Indianapolis currently. For an occupation, I do basically IT and other horrifically boring menial office tasks. And then, I got involved with NES development about 2.5, 3 years ago, probably just as a hobby. And have been a long-time gamer, pretty much lifelong gamer, and I really dig modern gen currently, but I'm also, definitely a retro gamer at heart.
Yeah, now you've been over on Nintendo Age for a while, is that right?
Yeah, definitely. I basically started at Nestev, when I was kind of exploring NES development at first, and that was just kind of as a curiosity here and there, and then basically went over to Nintendo Age because they had tutorials that I could understand because, I don't come from a programming background really. And then, I didn't even really understand Nintendo Age was a collector site to begin with. I didn't even really know there was this whole huge collecting scene for retro video games, to be honest with you. And I was really just on Nintendo Age, same reason I was on Nestev, was reading all these little tutorials and snippets about NES development. And basically went over there to, once I actually had a game in development, was just kind of there to advertise my game. But for the first several months, it was just there, asking questions about different stuff on NES Homebrew and working on my own demos, posting those demos, getting feedback on them, all that kind of stuff. But no, I've been an NA member now for, practically, well over 2 years, I would think.
So what makes you wake up one day and just go, I don't know how to code. I'm going to make an NES game.
Yeah, well, it was, I guess it started at the very first MagFest I attended. I had, 4 or 5 years ago, I had played around with a little bit of NES Homebrew when it was still it wasn't really in its infancy, but it was kind of in, this middle phase. It wasn't really matured like it is right now. It started out, I think the current NES Homebrew scene started out probably around the late 90s, early 2000s, and by the time I first started looking at it, there was plenty of stuff that was accessible, but the problem was a lot of the assemblers weren't really accurate. The stuff you made with the assemblers, which is basically what turns your code into the ROM that plays on the NES or NES emulator. A lot of them had problems where your code may have worked, it may not have worked, it might have been your fault, it might not have been your fault. So I got pretty frustrated with that 4 or 5 years ago when I first looked at it. But then, about 2 or 3 years ago, I was at the very first MagFest I ever attended, and Civic, the guy who created Battle Kid, was just kind of there informally talking about Battle Kid, which hadn't been released yet. Nobody really knew that much about it. And like I said, I had seen NES homebrew games before, but they're these one-screen demos and stuff like that. And Civic had this panel that wasn't on the schedule or anything. They just basically were like, hey, nobody's using this panel room now. Go on in and, show your game off. And I was like, whoa, somebody made an NES game? So I go in there. There was maybe a dozen of us in there watching Civic show Battle Kid. And I was just in awe because I'm like, oh my God, somebody made an actual NES game. This is platforming physics, it's an actual whole world you explore.
Yeah, Battle Kid's great.
Yeah, exactly. So that really got me seriously looking at NES development again. I still didn't have a lot of programming experience. Here and there I've kind of messed around with different stuff throughout my life, but I would get frustrated after a couple months and give up. So about 2 months later, I was just bored at work, and I'm like, I remember that Nestev site. I wonder if there's anything about that Battle Kid game there, or what else is there. And so I go on to Nestev, and I start looking around. Like, I wonder how some of this stuff works. I remember looking at this years ago, but I mean, really, how does certain little things work? And I just started asking some questions in the noob part of the forum, and from there it just snowballed, and I became hooked on learning more and more about the NES hardware and how to make it function.
The Assimilate game is quite a unique style to it. Was there any older games that like inspired it, or was this kind of a kernel that came out of your own thoughts?
It was, yeah, I get asked that a lot, and I hate to give the true answer because there was really no grand vision from the beginning by any means. I mean, professional game developers sit down, they have design documents, and those are grilled over and over again, and there was nothing like that. I mean, I have maybe a half-page Word document towards the beginning that I called a design doc, and that was maybe 5 months. That was generated maybe 5 months of me even working into what became the game. So it really started as a bunch of matured versions of all these demos that I was doing. Like I mentioned, how I was starting to get interested in NES development, and it was really just about finding how different facets of the NES hardware worked. One of the things I was fascinated from the very beginning is, how does scrolling work? I mean, those were my games when I was a kid. I loved platformers. I mean, we all did. Late 80s, early 90s, it's basically 90% of what we played was 2D platforming.
I think it's still 90% of what Krabby still plays.
Oh, yeah.
That's all right. There's plenty of good modern gen and retro platforming games out of there. So I'm like, okay, so how does the screen scroll work? So I mean, I was hammering stuff on Nestev, all these different notes that the more experienced homebrewers had left there, and just started putting together a scrolling demo. And that took me a while. I mean, gosh, like a month and a half to figure out, maybe 2 months to figure out exactly, just using Mario 1 graphics, as placeholders, so I could actually get scrolling to work. And after I finally did that and fine-tuned it, I was like, I want to get something moving on this scrolling background that I have. So I stopped using the Mario 1 graphics, but started using my own little graphics and just arbitrarily made this little hokey city thing. I'm like, you know what, something that flies. I don't want to deal with physics and whatnot, so I'll make it something that flies. So I made it a UFO. And then from there, I was like, be cool if that UFO actually like collided with the buildings. How do I do that? And started figuring that out. And then I'm like, well, a UFO should probably shoot a beam out, and abduct people. That's kind of crazy. Programming, thinking about the program to do that. Whatever, let's figure that out. And it just all kept kind of growing from there. And then I'm finally like, hey, I should like make a little game out of this. And then that little game is something that ended up taking me 2 years of my life or something. And I mean, I became pretty committed after a certain point. Like after I got the first like demo stage done that I showed at like the first Nintendo Age camp out that I showed, I'm like, yeah, I need to actually do this. I mean, when I was a kid on the playground, I mean, this is what we used to talk about was, what kind of NES game would we make?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was just, I'm like, man, I'm kind of got the basis of one here. I might as well just go ahead and finish it. I mean, it's just me basically scratching a nostalgic bone from my childhood.
That's a great story. I wouldn't be ashamed to answer like that at all.
Oh, I know. It just makes me feel flaky. Because I'm like, people will be like, well, yeah, I mean, didn't you have some kind of inspiration, core idea for this? Nope, not really. It's just a bunch of different scenarios of me screwing around coming together.
I think it's really cool. It kind of relates to the way, indie games in general are made, or games without like a publisher kind of above you, like do it this way, where you kind of have the freedom to be like, wouldn't it be cool if I did this? And wouldn't it be cool if I did this? And then just keep, adding cool things to it.
Yep.
So you've kind of explained a little bit about the game. Can you give us kind of a formal overview of what the game's all about and the structure of it?
Sure. I mean, a lot of people describe it as reverse defender, and I think that's pretty fair. You play a spaceship whose mission is to assimilate all the humans in a given area. Each level is like one area of a city or a city itself, if you want to call it that. And basically, you go from level to level, scooping up humans into your ship, which is really yourself, because the ship is kind of like a living thing called Osan. And you have 4 different tools available to assimilate them. Each tool, of course, has its own different power. You know, it may assimilate faster or slower, but it contributes to, like if it's a slower tool, it's more powerful, and it contributes to a higher assimilation percentage, you know, once you set the human back down. So once you've assimilated 100% of the humans in that area, you move on to the next level. And how fast you complete the level affects your score. How high up or low you are when you scoop the human into your ship affects the score. So the game can kind of be as easy or as hard as you want to make it, because the closer you are to the building, the easier it is to get a human into your ship and send them back down. It's a little easier to dodge the stuff that's always flying at you, the missiles, the fireballs, all kinds of other little random things that come at you. In the Asian stages, there's like a dragon that chases you and all that stuff. But the thing is, I mean, if you're one of those skill players that wants to play for higher score, then you have to be higher up, and it's a lot easier for something to explode you, to run into your ship and kill you. So.
And there's bosses in these, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. It's basically, the game is split up into 4 themed areas, and at the end of each one of those areas, which is like 4 or 5 stages, you fight a boss for that area.
And Krabby, you played all the way through that a little while back, right?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
No, I loved it. I enjoyed it. Even the quality of the movement of the character is better than some of the licensed games I've been playing lately.
Yeah, Krabby is helping to contribute towards that Can Nintendo Age Beat All the Games kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
So, man, yeah, you play some stinkers, don't you, Krabby?
Yeah, and yeah, like I said, Assimilate, it's awesome. The quality of the game is just fantastic. I enjoyed it right through.
What was your favorite part of the game, Krabby?
Oh, the boss fights were a ton of fun, and the bonus stages with the cows too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you didn't talk about that. So what about the bonus?
Oh yeah, that was actually an idea of a Nintendo Age member, to be honest with you. Like, when I started posting the game on Nintendo Age, I think it was Hybrid, this guy calls himself Hybrid, and he's awesome. He's like the guy that makes all these hacked Game Genie codes for like Homebrews and other NES games. I mean, it's insane how fast that guy can generate Game Genie codes. But he was the one that was like, I want to see a cow level for this thing, and then like other people in the thread were like echoing that, and I was like, ooh, that'd be a good bonus stage.
It was, and I love the difficulty ramp at the end too. Those stages in the moon, they're just brutal.
Yeah, those actually beat me up. I mean, it's a game design rule where it's like, you know, however hard the level is for you as the designer, it's going to be like 10 times harder for your players. And I mean, at first, those moon stages, I mean, it was to a point where I knew I wanted to be hard, you know, not super, super hard. I mean, somewhat. I'm not a huge fan of extreme challenge gaming, to be honest with you, because I'm not that good of a game player myself. So I want to eventually complete the game. I want something they're kind of fighting back on me, but I want to eventually be able to complete the game without too much trouble. Another way of saying I'm a pansy, I guess.
I'm right there with you. I'm too old for this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I got too much other stuff to play.
Yeah.
You know, I can't spend weeks and weeks and weeks on something.
Yeah,
so
that's my problem.
But yeah. So I mean, the moon levels. I mean, if you can believe it, Krabby. I mean, like that last one, was it like 21, I think, or something like that, where everything's green.
Yep.
I mean, the first several times I played it, when I first had the enemies laid out, I couldn't finish it. I'm like, okay, well, if I can't, nobody else is going to be able to. And I got it to a point where it, you know, basically makes me swear just enough, but I can still get through it, you know, if I pansy out and stick close to the buildings or something. Then I'm like, okay, this will be, I guess it'll be really hard for like an average to sucky gamer like myself, and then like challenge gamers, they can probably get through this. I mean, I have some friends that are insane gamers, and it wasn't more than like, I mean, watching them play that level, and they're so much better at it than I am, is awesome. But like, I remember one of the guys, he was one of the first ones to buy the carts, and it wasn't more than like a day that he got through the game. And I was like, whoa, dude. I mean, he spent maybe a couple hours on it or something like that, and was posting this pic on the thread like, hey, I've already beaten it already. And sure enough, there's a picture of like the end credits screen or whatever.
It's like watching Krabby's YouTube channel. It's like, if you want to feel bad about yourself and how good you are at games, just go watch him beat every game. Like, and yeah, it takes him, he dies a little bit here and there, but I'm over here like spending the last week and a half on Castlevania, and I'm gonna get it eventually, but yeah, I'm the same way. Like, very hard difficulty in games sometimes will scare me away, and sometimes I'll kind of try to buckle down and go for it. But yeah, I'm the same way. Like, if something's like ridiculous challenging, I normally won't stick with it very long.
I think you found a good sweet spot there, because it was very hard, but it was doable if you sit there and think about it, try and figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good. Good to hear. I'm glad it didn't cause you to like throw your controller or something.
No, like you said, it just gets you close. Like, you feel like you're gonna get there, but then you break through it, and you feel really good that you like accomplished it.
So, where can people find the game? Where can people buy copies of this thing, John?
Well, just today, as you said, breaking news here, Duke. This actually just today, I've had some of my good friends. They have started their own run of their own carts, basically with my permission, based on the ROM. My good friend Adam Welch at Airwalk Studios is distributing new carts being made by my buddy Will Thornton. So just go to Airwalk Studios store, and the information is on the Asylum website as well. Just go to their store and you can buy a copy of the cart now. I'm probably done, as I described on my website, I'm probably done with my own carts, that I released several months ago. But they're going to go ahead and continue to make some for the foreseeable future for anyone that's been playing the ROM and would like to play it on their NES but doesn't have a power pack or other similar means to play the game on their NES console.
That's great. And if you're listening to the show, we'll have all this in the show notes, so you can go take a look at that and jump over and buy a cart. It's a great game. I would highly recommend it.
Yep, and they're very good guys. They do very good work. So by all means, buy it if you want it. It's great to support them as well. They're fellow homebrewers and fellow proto builders. So, yep, I highly endorse it.
As you know, we're kind of a collector-focused site. So I'm really curious to know how you come about with the number of physical copies that you make.
Mine was, I was kind of lucky because I could do a pre-sale, and that was a huge help because, I mean, I kind of have a round number I was going for at the beginning, but it turned out I way underestimated the demand and had to double what I originally thought I would sell because of that pre-sale. I mean, I think a lot of homebrewers are really optimistic about what they're going to sell. I was probably way overly pessimistic. I thought I'd sell like maybe 25 to 50 or something like that. It ended up being like 3 times that between the 2 little runs that I did. Those aren't like, I mean, I'm sure something like, Battle Kid does way more than that. But there's a lot of homebrewers I'll be out there talking to, and they're like, so what do you think about a run of like 500 or something like that? And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, for me though, a lot of it was, I was putting my own money up front, just because that way I get paid immediately, Some people choose to go the route where, the person who's producing goes ahead and pays for all the parts and whatnot, and then just gives them their cut after the fact. But I'm kind of a control freak, so I just kind of wanted everything going through me, so it's like I basically had to front the money to the cart producer, who was RetroZone, and, the box builder, who was Uncle Tusk. And that's a lot of the reason I was a lot more conservative on how many I was building, because if I build like 100 of these things and sold like 20, well, then there's like a couple grand out the window. So, yeah, it as it turned out, though, it worked out very well. But I easily sold everything I produced, and I was really shocked at how well it did sell and how quickly it sold.
So, can you explain to us what this process is of taking? Okay, you've completed this piece of software, the ROM, and now I'm going to turn this into a physical product. I mean, what's that like?
Well, there's really one or two ways you can go. Like I said, you can basically send it to somebody who's producing the carts for you. RetroZone is like the most popular, obviously, for NES. And Bunny Boy does a great job. He did a great job on mine. And, I mean, you can have it so that he does everything. You just send him the ROM and he takes care of everything else. Builds the carts, labels them, gets the boxes from Tusk or wherever, and does all the distribution for you as well. Or you can do kind of like a hybrid model like I did where, he basically built the blank carts for me, and then I finished the production here in my apartment in Indianapolis and then sent them out, to the people who had ordered them on through my site. The other way you can do it is you can build them yourself by using donor carts. That's basically where you desolder the original ROM chips from the board inside the carts, burn your own ROM chips with your code, and then solder those onto the boards inside the carts, put them together with your own label, and send them out from there. It's ugly. I mean, I've made a couple protos myself and a couple repros. Am I allowed to say that
Yeah.
on this show that I've made repros? Dun dun dun.
I don't think you'll get any.
Yeah, as long as you don't follow that up with, and then I tried to pass them off as the real thing.
Yes,
I think you're
yes,
all right.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. No, definitely not. In fact, my repros I didn't actually make any money for them because they were gifts for friends. So, but let me tell you something. I'm not good with anything that involves tools. A hammer sometimes can perplex me. So you can imagine what a soldering iron does. Oh my God. I have burned myself more trying to desolder and resolder a ROM chip, and been so frustrated with so many screwed up, destroyed boards. So I knew immediately that the whole making my own route wasn't for me, because it takes me like 2 hours to make each cart. That's not practical when you're making over 100 of those things. So I knew I wanted somebody else to build the carts, but I also knew I wanted control of my own distribution. So there's really many ways you can do it. Duke, sorry not to offer a real quick, easy answer there.
No. I still remember that you like shot a picture of like all these just giant stacks of stuff that had come into you that you had to
that was awesome
to work with.
Yeah, that was fun. When I got those things done at like 4:00 in the morning. And they're all just like stacked up there. All like the first run was like over 100, like 110 or something like that.
Yeah.
About a dozen of them were going to like beta testers and review sites and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a whole big stack of like NES carts that are my own game. So
yeah,
it was quite nerdy and beautiful.
What kind of feeling does that give you to go, man, look, this is something that, out of thin air, I've made this thing, and it's out there.
Well, you said this is an all-ages show, so I can't be honest about what kind of feeling that was, dude. But it was pretty cool.
Very good. So you mentioned NESDev. So for people that are out there that are not familiar with what NESDev is, can you give kind of an overview of what that's all about? Yeah,
it's basically the central repository and discussion forum for NES homebrew knowledge. I mean, there's other sites out there, that supplement it, but NESDev.com or, it's not parodius.nesdev.com anymore because they just migrated servers.
I'm sure anybody can Google it, just NESDEV, right?
Yeah, you just Google NESDev and you'll find it. It'll pop right up.
And we'll have it in the show notes.
Yeah, cool. So, but that's basically what it is. I mean, there's plenty of they've got a wiki site, that's becoming better and better organized, that basically walks you through all facets of the NES hardware, or most of them. But yeah, it's basically where all the major NES homebrewers have contributed their knowledge and shared their knowledge on the hardware and just how to make games for the NES and how to do different things with it. And it's getting to have a little Super Nintendo section too, from the last time I checked. And of course, there's plenty on the Famicom as well, so Duke should love that.
Yeah. I'm getting these other two guys on board, so slowly but surely I'm dragging them into the...
Oh, Famicom's awesome.
Yeah. I'm ready. I'm ready to get into it. I got my 3 carts, and when I get some more play money, I'll get even more.
Cool. Duke is now 1 cart richer from last weekend with that worthless common that I gifted him.
No, it was a disc. He gave me a disc game.
Wow.
So it was, he gave me a copy of Exciting Billiards by Konami.
Sweet.
So thank you very much.
I'd be excited.
Hey, I'm always, everything is always exciting when you get it. It's like, that's great. So I was kind of shocked to find out though that, like, is it just me, or is Indiana and the Midwest kind of like a hotbed for NES development?
Well, there's a few there's a few NES homebrewers in the state for some reason.
Yeah.
Which is, granted, that doesn't sound like much, but I guess that's a lot.
In that community,
there's probably
sure,
100 to 200 NES homebrewers on the planet, maybe, because there's only people crazy enough to actually do this. There's probably more than a couple hundred, but you know what I'm saying, But yeah, no, it's and it's not only that, but it's the people who are basically founders and major contributors to the NESDev forum, most notably Memblers, who lives 5 minutes away from me here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I got to meet him on our last little thing there.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the guys that basically started the NESDev forum, and he's also, if I'm right, the first person to actually release his own NES homebrew on a cart.
Yeah, he created a garage cart, right?
Yep, exactly. Yep. And several of the other people that are basically talking on NESDev all the time, answering questions all the time, are right here in the Hoosier State. So I guess this is where it's happening.
Yeah.
Homebrew.
How weird, right?
We are the Los Angeles of NES homebrew right here in the Hoosier State, folks.
It just goes to show that we're about 25 years behind the times, right?
Yeah.
But I was, I really was impressed to find that out. I'm like, Indiana's not known for much, so it's good that it's known for something, I suppose.
You mentioned wanting to have as much control as possible in creating these. How much input did you have doing the boxes and the manuals and the labels and all the packaging?
Mm-hmm. Actually, yeah, I had full control of that. So the manuals were my own design. I had those printed at actually a local print shop here in Indianapolis. And the box, like I said, that was done by Uncle Tusk, just because he has a lot of experience in that. But he he basically just sent me a layout in Photoshop that I could use. And then in Photoshop, I just went ahead and filled it in with my own graphics. And it's completely 100% customizable to what I wanted. And they all did a really good job with that.
Now, what about the music? I know we've kind of talked about it before, but can you tell everybody kind of how the music came about?
Yeah, actually, that's the one thing I really did not do, because I'm musically talentless, and I know this about myself. So right at the beginning, I'm like, yeah, I'm not composing the music. It'll sound horrible. So basically, I mean, I'm a big chiptunes enthusiast. I love chiptunes. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite guys on 8-Bit Collective, I just emailed him very, very early on in the project. Right when it was becoming like an actual game instead of just a hodgepodge monster of stitched together demos. And I asked him, hey, I'm actually going to make this NES game. Would you be interested in doing the music for it? And I wasn't sure if I'd hear back from him or not. I was ready to email other people. He emailed me like within the day. And he was like, hell yeah, I want to do that. But yeah, his name's Computerization. Sadly, I don't think he's composing anymore, which is too bad. He's just got bored with it or moved on to other things. But I thought this stuff was awesome. But his stuff is still there on 8-Bit Collective. Look up Computerization. His stuff is awesome, and he's the one that composed music for my game. So basically, he would compose it in FamiTracker, and then send me the files, the FamiTracker files, and from the FamiTracker files, I would transcribe them into the sound engine.
Right, and for those that are maybe not as familiar, FamiTracker is just a little PC program that you can use to compose the same kind of music that would play on the NES sound chip, right?
Exactly. And it's kind of, it's split up into the 5 channels that you get on the NES. It's hard to explain this briefly, but yeah, it's a lot easier. I couldn't look at a piece of sheet music and like transcribe that into a sound engine. Looking at a tracker program is a lot easier because that's set up not exactly by any means, but pretty close to how you think of music when you're programming it into an NES game or any kind of NES project.
So what happens is that basically that software can just generate a file, and that's the code you need? Is that basically it?
It can do that. The problem is, it can generate like a little binary file. The problem is you have to use their sound engine if you want that to play in your game. So what you have to do is if you export the FamiTracker file into a little text binary file, you're still going to have to do a lot of cutting, pasting, and changing all these different things to make it work and fit into your own sound engine. And the sound engine in my game was also written by another programmer as well, which I got his permission to use it and wrote him in the credits. And that engine's available on Nintendo Age too. He's a great guy. His name's Metal Sun. Very, very smart NES homebrewer. And he has a whole set of tutorials on Nintendo Age about working with sound, programming sound in NES projects. And so he had a good engine. It just worked well for me, and nice enough guy to just let me use it. Probably shaved about 4 months off my project, not having to write my own sound engine.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Now, in total, when you get done with a game like this, how big is the end ROM size? We're talking pretty small?
Oh yeah. Assimilate. In fact, I can look at that right now. It's within 256K. I can tell you that.
Isn't that crazy, guys?
It is nuts.
Yeah, this is.
I'm probably like the README on like one of these 360 games is probably bigger than that.
Yeah, I think I have like homework, like Word documents that's that take up more space.
Yeah, because that's the mapper size. So it's like this is saying used space. Oh, I had almost 32K available. So
you wasted 32K?
No, that's free. Yeah. So
you could have put some ridiculous Easter egg in there.
I was efficient, Duke. I saved 32K for nothing else, I guess, ever. But yeah, it's about 224K.
Wow,
is what Assimilate ended up being.
That's pretty amazing. I think one time you were over with your laptop and you kind of showed me like the entire like length of the code, and I'm like, doesn't look like very much.
The code is very, very lengthy, actually. It's just when you assemble that, it compresses down dramatically. Oh my god! If I put together these different text documents, and they're still not huge, but you're talking probably several megabytes.
Still though,
I know it's not. I know that's crazy, right? That doesn't sound that huge, but I'm just looking at the ones in kind of my root file now. What are these?
Well, I think I remember reading that. Just Breed was the biggest commercially produced game for the NES Famicom, and it was only 1 megabyte.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yep. But the code goes on for pages and pages and pages. Reading it is human readable code in these text documents and whatnot. But in fact, to send it off to the copyright office, just I guess, I've got the ROM out there, so I'm not a closed source, fanatic by any means, but
I thought it might be a good idea just to get it copyright for any reason.
It's a smart
And
idea.
like you're supposed to send like, either the entire code, or if that's too big, like just the first, like, I don't know, what was it, like 25 pages and last 25 pages if you want of what you consider your code. So I opened up like the main assembly file, and that's just one of maybe, oh gosh, I want to say that's one of maybe 40 or 50 files, assembly files and binary files throughout my code. But that's kind of the main one that works as an index for where everything needs to go, and has the main routine that kind of runs the game and runs the frame rate and everything. And that thing ended up being like 70 odd pages when I put it in Word. So I'm like, only the first 25 pages and last 25 pages of that one main file, which is one out of like probably 30 to 40 files I have. That's like all that I was able to send to the copyright office. So I can't even imagine how big this thing is, like page-wise, if you like are just looking at the readable code.
Right. But
Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine how, 2.5, 3 years of work boils down to like a floppy disk and a half.
Yeah.
not even that, right? I mean,
Well, yeah, what do you say, like a meg or two?
256K.
Yeah, mine was about 220K.
Wow.
Like I had 256 available because of the mapper I was using. And I don't know, Duke, should I go into explaining mappers? That's a pretty lengthy discussion.
That might be a little beyond our
Target audience
scope. But I mean,
Sure,
they
sure.
can obviously go and read more about that if they want to. But
Sure.
okay,
Yeah,
so
don't get me too nerdy. I'll be talking for hours and hours and hours.
I just don't want to lose people.
Yeah.
Not that it's not interesting. I think it's fascinating, but
Oh, they've been lost. Oh my god, they were lost as soon as they're like, oh god, they're interviewing the Assimilate guy.
that one.
So does I know you've talked about the number of copies you made. Does that have any impact on the price point, or what goes into coming up with how much you end up selling these for?
Okay, this is going to be an edit. Can you repeat that, Krabby? Sorry.
No problem. I was just wondering what kind of stuff goes into coming up with a price point to sell your games. Is it just what other games have been selling for? How many copies you plan to make? Like what kind of things go into that decision?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, it's all of those basically, and how much you spent on parts, obviously. But I did want to gauge, against what other people had sold on, and I'd asked a question of other homebrewers who had, been through cart runs of their own, and then kind of what I determine is a reasonable profit margin. I just kind of add on top of whatever I spend on the parts. So, and profit margin for me, reasonable. I mean, I wanted to keep it low. My thing was making it accessible too. I couldn't justify charging, for me anyways, I didn't want to charge as much as like a full price modern gen game. I was really trying to stay around $30 or so. But it just wasn't quite possible, and especially with boxes, I had to charge more on that, unfortunately. So I got a little higher than comfortable with the box copies, but still, I think I stayed fairly reasonable on those.
I think you've got the wrong idea. You're talking to collectors here, so
We
when
love
you're
I
putting
know,
boxes
I know.
in there, people are happy to
Yeah.
pay for that box.
The more paper, the better.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here. Don't worry about box costs.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. But it's like, but yeah, I didn't want it to be too outrageous. I mean, it's a game for a 25-year-old system. My favorite system of all time, mind you, but this was just something to do to fulfill a little childhood fascination I used to have. This wasn't something I did to make mad cash. Did I just skip a question? I'm sorry.
Did it for the women, right?
That's it.
S-
Well, people who know me might know better than that, but
no problem. So what you were just talking about, like fulfilling that childhood dream, does that have something to do with why you felt the need to release a physical copy of this game rather than just having it floating around for people to emulate?
Exactly. That was exactly it. Yeah. I wanted to see it in the cool NES box on the cool NES card, just like I used to go to Toys R Us and buy them when they were brand new, back in the
Yeah.
late 80s.
So did you seal your own copy in cellophane and then like tear it open right after?
It's still sealed. It's going under the Christmas tree in a couple months.
Are you gonna do the N64 kid and just
Just rip the hell out of that box. Yeah.
That's cool. So you've talked a little bit about the homebrew community and like all the ways that someone who's might be interested in making a homebrew could go about it. So you have the like the multiple forums with NestEv and Nintendo Age and multiple places. You have places where you can buy the parts, people who can help you kind of make the boxes. So with all this stuff out there helping people, are there any really big obstacles anymore, or is it really kind of friendly to newcomers?
It's actually very friendly to newcomers. I think it's getting more friendlier to newcomers than it ever has been, to be honest with you. And a lot of it, Bill, is because, like I said, the assemblers, the debugging tools, all the things you use to make NES games are getting friendlier and friendlier, and there keeps turning out to be more and more NES homebrewers. So that's more people that you have to talk to as resources to help you. If you don't, that's more people answering your questions that you post on the forum. So if you don't understand one answer, maybe the next guy that answers it, it gives you the same answer but worded differently, you will understand.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's something that I think a lot of people at one point or another have thought of. And just like you got started, I feel like that story is, I hear it a lot. It's fairly common. Like, well, I considered doing it for a while. I didn't know very much and, just kind of kept nagging at you. And you said, you know what, I'm going to go do this. And it just really seems like, if you have the drive for it, the tools are out there. So it seems like something that, is possible, even though it seems kind of, like a tricky thing to do if you haven't touched it before.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So as far as the physical copies, because again, that's being collectors, that's kind of what we love. What are your thoughts on using a site like a crowdfunding site like Kickstarter or a similar site to fund the release of a homebrew game?
I think however you can get it done. I have no problems with using Kickstarter by any means. I think it's actually a pretty cool tool for doing something like that. I funded mine through pre-orders, partly funded mine through pre-orders. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know, it's like the seed money that you need to do something like this, it's sizable, but it's by no means like what you need to get started. Like how do you pronounce it? The Ouya console or whatever this.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that huge. So I don't think you need to go all out with your Kickstarter campaign to get a homebrew project started, but it's definitely however you can get it funded. If you can get the seed money to fund it, and more power to you. If you can get a few grand off Kickstarter and all your carts are made and paid for, so you just basically sit back and get them out to people. That's the big thing. I mean, as long as you're honest and get them out to people. But I haven't heard too many horror stories yet of that not happening. I've heard of stories where people take forever to get their stuff to, the people who ordered them. And I mean, that's pretty lame too. I think you should be pretty close to complete before you do start collecting cash. So, I mean, as far as a Kickstarter campaign for something that you've got like little notes jotted down on, that's kind of iffy. But I mean, if you're like to the point where I was when I started taking pre-orders, I mean, the game was practically done. I was basically ordering supplies and everything like that. I think that's a lot more acceptable because it doesn't cost anything to develop this up to that point. It's you tinkering around on your laptop. On the code.
That's a really good point. 'Cause, I mean, I've been browsing Kickstarter lately just to kind of see what's out there, and there's a big difference between seeing something that looks like it's literally ready to go, and it's like, okay, the money comes in, we make your thing, you're gonna get it, and
Yeah.
between someone with a sketch on a napkin that says, okay, I kind of got an idea about maybe doing a game, but I know nothing about development, help me out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I would stay away from those.
Pay
Yeah.
for me to go and learn this stuff so I can make you
Yeah.
a product, right?
Which may or may not ever happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More likely, probably won't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so, oh, go ahead, Duke.
I was going to say, I've seen, there was one particular Kickstarter project I'm glad I didn't fund, but I've kept an eye on it for something I think is really cool. Just so that if they ever produce it, I would like to get one. And I think it's one of those where, okay, I mean, it got funded like over a year ago, and there's still no product. I don't think I'd be real happy.
And you know what's a little bit worrisome to me, and you really have to be careful, no matter what you back on Kickstarter, but you really have to be careful, is a friend of mine was telling me that they're reading in the fine print of Kickstarter, and when you pledge, you are not paying for the finished product. You are paying for the promise of that product. So if that product never happens, you are not entitled to get your money back.
That is correct.
Yep.
That is
So
correct.
and I feel like a lot of people, whether it's Kickstarter not putting that info right in front of that button that says, okay, here, pledge your money, putting a big red stop sign in front of that says, okay, buddy, just so you know, it might be a lack of that why it's a little bit disturbing to me. But I mean, again, it's always a buyer beware situation. But there's a few situations that I really hope never happen to people, but I feel like they're going to.
Well, I think some of that's got to be Kickstarter's in's probably like just a CYA,
Right.
I mean, obviously they don't want many of those to happen either because that's going to put their site in a negative light. So I'm going to imagine they probably try to motivate people a little bit to not let that happen. And from what I understand, they've really kind of tightened up what their guidelines were in terms of what you can kickstart. You just, those ideas of this on a napkin, they're trying to push away from that, obviously.
Right.
Well, if you, Bill, are specifically gearing, you did specifically gear this Kickstarter question towards homebrew or retro homebrew, like NES or Genesis or something like that.
Right.
I mean, the way, in my view, that differs from modern game indie development is you really should not be doing retro homebrew or try to be doing it as a living. I mean, you should not be getting a massive amount of money invested so that you can quit your job and make an NES game.
Totally.
It should be a hobby.
Right.
I mean, most of the guys on Nest Dev agree with that too. A lot of the guys on Nest Dev have a problem with you making money off of your game, to be honest with you. And I mean, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with their view of that, whatever. But at the same time, I mean, if you're putting money into parts and all that, I mean, you at least need to get that back, I think. But it really should be a hobby. If you make a few bucks off of it, cool. But you shouldn't be asking for people for thousands and thousands of dollars so you can do it specifically as a 40-hour-a-week job. Indie game development, that's a whole different story. I mean, you're really trying to actually make a living on that. So.
Yeah, and I would say, in terms of that, I want the people that are making these games to make a profit because that motivates them to make more. So, I mean, I don't have any problem. I would look at somebody a little, cockeyed if somebody did not want to make a profit because you worked hard. You deserve a little of that.
Agreed. I like to pay for my entertainment.
Yeah, but it should be, I don't know. I'm more of the opinion that it should be for fun. I mean, that's what mine was. And, I mean, rather than, I don't know. Hey, you're right, Duke. I'm a horrible capitalist.
Good job, comrade. That's
I'm a horrible I'm a worse socialist, believe me. I'm just useless in any economic system, I guess.
So, what can you tell me what the reception was like from the collector community for your game?
Pretty good. I mean, definitely, especially on Nintendo Agent. The one thing that surprised me is how many people were interested from Western Europe. I mean, it was really shocking. Seeing my game pop up on all these French and German websites and stuff, and it's really fascinating because there's the Assimilate logo, and it's either German John White, This is my horrible mock German right there. And, some of these people from those sites asking me about it, and I have quite a few overseas orders. I expected a lot more overseas orders from Japan, and didn't get nearly as many from Japan as I did from, obviously, there are quite a few from Canada, but there was a lot from the UK, France, Germany, a couple from Scandinavia here and there, a couple from Russia, but a lot from Western Europe.
Well, I've been kind of... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, of course, like, generally the feedback on the people who have played the game has been positive, at least the ones that have actually taken the time to message me about it or post something on a thread has been generally positive, so that's pretty good. And, like I said, sold all my carts, so, thank you guys, all you who've ordered it. You're awesome. Because it started as a little, demo just to pass the time and a little infatuation just to pass the time, so I'm really honored that there's that many people out there willing to buy it. Even if you just bought it as something to, like, stick on your shelf and resell someday, I don't care. I mean, you still bought my game. That's insane to me,
Well, I would imagine if you could have done a Famicom cart, then you probably could have done a lot better in Japan. But there's probably not any tools right now to really produce those like there are NES carts. Am I guessing right?
I mean, to make your own, you could pretty easily. I mean, as far as just getting donors and make the same way as I described earlier, making games from donor NES carts, but. I don't know. I mean, it's very similar. I mean, Famicom programming is fairly similar to NES programming. Of course, you have all these extra little features that all too well, Duke, especially with like the sound and whatnot that you can program into there. And but I would think anybody willing to grind it out could probably make their own Famicom stuff if they wanted to.
I was just thinking, I know there are still a lot of Chinese manufacturers of quote-unquote pirate carts for Famicom to this day. I mean, they're still generated pretty well. So I would imagine if somebody had wanted to take the time to contact one of those Chinese fabs, you probably could. You probably could do a little run of that. So that would be interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
He kind of touched on it already when he said he didn't mind people buying them just to have it sit on their shelves and maybe resell later.
Yes, I love resellers. Just so there's a shout out to my NA homies who might be listening.
See, there's the capitalism.
The idea, though, is, John, you're supposed to be trying to make the money, not everybody else.
I know.
So do you have a few hoarded away to sell on a rainy day?
No. I've got my own. I've got one that I give to my dear beloved mother as a, just as a gift. That was a freebie. So I guess if I wanted to be a real capitalist, I could sell her or something, get up there in value.
Well, has she beaten it yet?
She has not touched it. She just goes, "Oh, that's so cute," and like filed it away somewhere, and like the rest of my high school stuff or whatever else.
She's out with her friends. Look what my Johnny did.
Yeah.
Well, I think the good news always is, though, but you're the owner of the code, so if you need a few extra bucks and you want to do another run, you can, right? It's yours.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now, I guess I've always kind of wondered about it too, because I didn't get a chance to spend much time talking to Memblers when we were there the other night, but that's kind of always been my thought, and a question I kind of meant to ask him, but I didn't get around to is, garage carts are selling pretty well for a little bit of money. Why not just do another run?
You'd have to ask him about that.
Oh no, yeah, completely.
Yeah, I can't believe you didn't ask him about that. Yeah, he's pretty cool. He'd answer you. Yeah,
one of these days, I think next time I'm going to see if I could just beg him to just make me one. How much would you charge me? Just make me one. I don't care. I'm not going to resell it. I just want to have it to play.
You've talked about your childhood a little bit. So what were some of these games that you grew up on that kind of inspired this?
Duke's not going to be happy here,
Oh,
but
good. That means the rest of us will be.
yeah. I mean, my go-to game to this day is Super Mario Brothers. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna guess.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess RBI baseball.
No. Ooh, no.
Okay.
No sports games. No sports games. No, Super Mario Brothers 2. I love that game.
The fake one.
So yeah, just to clarify, Mario 2 US?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, 2 US. Ooh, no. Remember, I'm not a challenge gamer, so Japanese Mario 2. But yeah, Mario 2 US.
Just the thought of Japanese Mario 2 made him go, ooh.
Yeah.
I think most of anybody that's tried to play it, that's kind of the reception. It's like, oh my gosh, really?
That's what it says. That's the quote from the magazine on the back of the box. It's just, ooh.
Yep. Capcom games, basically all Capcom games, most of them I loved. I loved the Mega Man series. Loved the Mega Man series.
What's the best one?
2.
Yes.
Wrong answer. It's 3.
I'm huge on
2.
2 for some reason. I don't know why. Except for Castlevania 2. Castlevania 3 has to be my favorite in that series.
Thank you.
Such an amazing game. Well, and obviously, I mean, I love Mario 3, don't get me wrong. That game's a masterpiece. But for some reason, and I love playing Mario 3, I really love playing Mario 2. Especially, and I hope I don't break the, all ages rule here, but especially when I'm had some drinks, and want to go chill out and play my NES for whatever reason. Mario 2 is so much fun to play when I'm buzzing or just fall down drunk, one of the two.
It's interesting to say it that way because when you think about the beginning of that game, you kind of fall into this world.
It is. Well, I mean, the whole game is like this dream, which could be interpreted as just some huge trip. Obviously. I mean, for God's sakes, there's little guys with masks running around, and, I mean, you throw vegetables at them, and fight a giant frog at the end. I mean, the whole game is just a big trip. But,
well, because the original game was, took place inside of, a children's storybook.
Exactly. And it was, Arabian characters, and, yeah. No, I love Doki Doki Panic as well, don't get me wrong. The game is based on, but... Trying to think of other NES games I was huge on. For some reason, the first DuckTales, I love that game too.
Oh yeah.
Now we're talking.
Yep.
Yeah, DuckTales is a great game. DuckTales 2 is amazing. Thinking Metroid. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Metroid series in general. I love the original Metroid for the NES. So I'm kind of getting out of the side-scroller range here. I mean, Zelda is my all-time favorite franchise ever, and the original Legend of Zelda is right up there. I love Zelda 2 as well, even though most people think it's kind of the black sheep, but I do love Zelda 2. Not as much as the original Legend of Zelda, but yeah. So those are some of my favorites from the NES era. Probably kind of generic with what anyone else would say. They are. They're awesome, Tried and true right there.
So, I know you usually, when we're talking, you admonish collectors a little bit, but you do.
This is a joke. This is a joke.
You do a little collecting of your own, right?
A teeny tiny, non-serious bit.
And
yes.
that is
ColecoVision.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the thrill of the hunt. I mean, it's this obscure system. The carts are obscure. And it's just the fun of finding a Coleco cart that's not Donkey Kong.
They made more?
Yeah, can you believe that? But, I really I got fascinated when I got back into video games, because there was a whole 10-year period in my life where I wasn't that interested in video games, through high school and college. And then when I got really big back into them when I started, working in horrible, boring adult land and needed something to pass the time in the evenings.
That's so weird. I had the exact same kind of gap.
I think a lot of people our age did, Bill, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say? Your age?
Yeah.
Well, the older guys.
I never stopped.
I know a lot of people didn't stop either. I just, for some reason, had that, like Bill said, just that gap there. But when I got big into video games again, I got really big into video game history. And that's when, I'd known of the ColecoVision, but when I found out, more about it, and then it's basically the PS3 of its era.
Oh, yeah.
But was just released at, like, the most unfortunate time imaginable. And then they just didn't have that many good titles. So, those things combined make it a very interesting to collect library, in my opinion. Just because, like I said, the carts are hard to find. Anything outside of Donkey Kong is hard to find. So for me, it's just kind of the hunt for those is what's fun. I'm not at all serious, though, about... I'd like to have a complete set someday, but I'll probably die without having one. It's like I think I'm looking at them right now, as a matter of fact. In fact, I'm looking at a beautiful boxed Time Pilot that a certain friend bought for me last weekend.
Well, somebody, when we had the weekend, but John was nice enough to take us all around, drive us around the city, take everybody that was in town to the shops, and poor guy was so exhausted.
Game hunting? Well, that's my own fault, though. That's my own fault.
But he was just like asleep in the car. He was just so tired. He's like, man, I'm going to go sleep in the car.
The day before I had to work like an hour early, and then like from there I went right over to the hotel to start setting stuff up, and I decided I'll drink a Red Bull right now, and that wasn't a good idea because I got like 2 hours of sleep that night, and then the next day was game collecting, like game shopping with like some of the most enthusiastic collectors on Nintendo Age and RF generation, so. But
that sounds like you won a sweepstakes.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll listeners of the show will probably have already heard a little bit about this, but a fun weekend.
Oh yeah, good times always with my peeps. But yeah, I'm looking at these 30. What have I got? There are maybe 25 Coleco carts, and like I think 15 of those were given to me by my good friend Matt. So, like I said, those were just freebies that he gave me because he didn't have a use for them.
And I've got a mostly complete Atom over here.
I found that scored that last weekend. But yeah, that thing hasn't really grown that much.
It can't grow too much. There's
pile
not much there.
of Coleco carts sitting up there. It just kind of keeps sitting there and grows one cart or so every 6 months.
What about modern games? What's your taste skew to, and do you still play modern stuff?
Oh yeah. I'm still an RPG gamer. Not as hardcore as I used to be, like in the Super Nintendo era. But we were discussing earlier, I love the Mass Effect franchise. That's probably my favorite thing in modern gen. I just think they've done such an incredible job with that trilogy. And yes, the multicolored explosions were stupid, but it was still a pretty good ending to Mass Effect 3. I'm probably going to get your podcast flamed for that one.
No, I don't think you revealed anything.
Yeah.
That's not spoilers.
Well, it's not a spoiler, but yeah, obviously there's still pretty strong feelings about the original ending to Mass Effect 3. And part of how they handled that was stupid, but still a pretty awesome ending before, the stupid part. If that makes sense. So, but other than that, that whole gaming experience was just amazing. Going through all three of those games and then replaying them. Like, I've always had to replay every Mass Effect game twice. I go through it the first time as almost total Paragon, good guy Shepard, and then I go back through it as jerk Shepard, and I love that. I love making every single horrible decision. I love punching that journalist in the face as jerks. That is like the first time that actually happened, I was laughing so hard on my couch, which is probably not good because I just watched a woman get battered. And I'm just sitting there like laughing hysterically, But
what's even better than that is playing through that game, doing everything nice except for punching her in the face, and then everybody's like, "Whoa, what you never do anything like that? What I just hate journalists. I don't even know what it is."
Yep, that's awesome.
So I'm curious then. So when you're doing that, do you make like a male that's the one way, and then like a female character that's the other way, or just
No, it's always been male shepherd.
okay? See, now when I play through, it's the jerk shepherd is the guy, and then like the really nice one is the gal.
Aw, because she's more sensitive and has those motherly intentions and all that.
I don't think that's it. I don't want to create a I don't know what a nice way to say this is, a mean woman.
A female dog.
Yes, that would be bad.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, I love the Zelda franchise. Skyward Sword was amazing. I loved that game. So I do follow the Nintendo franchises into the modern gen as well. I am a Nintendo fanboy through and through for all their major franchises. Metroid, Mario, Zelda. I do like platformers, 3D platformers. I tend to like I said, I tend to pick up stuff that follows the old franchises as well. Like Castlevania Lords of Shadow came out, and I was like, I gotta play that. It's even though everyone's told me the 3D Castlevanias were horrible, and that game ended up being pretty good. As far as news, well, of course, Skyrim was a great game too. So I'm not huge into first-person shooters just because I'm horrible at them. But
join the club.
I would say, yeah, it's between RPGs and platformers. I have to alternate between them because eventually I get sick of the detail that's required and the time that's required in RPGs, and I just need some good mindless platformer like Mario Galaxy or something like that. Not saying it's mindless. I mean, it requires some skill and concentration to get through some of that stuff. But, just fun, of the 3D platformers or 2D platformers.
So I know you have a few other little things that would be considered gaming collectibles. So what would you say is kind of some of those cool little collectibles that you've got? Like maybe a soundtrack that you might own.
Oh, yeah. My Final Fantasy VI OST, signed by Nobuo Uematsu.
Wow.
His name I probably just...
Signed.
Yes.
If that doesn't say collector, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
I know. That was more like out of enthusiasm for seeing it. At the last MagFest, his band played. They were like the headlining band. And it was awesome, like watching them. And then the next day they had this panel. So naturally, when me and my friends that go to MagFest, we're all thinking of our stuff to take, in case they had a panel or in case they had a signing table. I mean, that Final Fantasy VI OST is actually something I ordered in high school. This was like 1997, right? And I ordered this thing from Japan, and everybody was like, "You are such a nerd. You ordered a 3-disc video game soundtrack from Japan." I'm like, "It's Final Fantasy VI." I was so excited when it came in the mail. I was like sitting there like blaring it on my car's CD player as I drove through town and whatnot. I mean, just imagine that. Imagine Terror's theme coming out of... other people are blaring, their hip-hop or whatever those young kids listen to. The guys that are, actually... Oh, never mind. That's going to bust your all ages thing. The guys who are successful with the ladies, if you will, are like, busting their actual, oh God, whatever horrible crap that was in that time, Nickelback or whatever else, or whatever horrible brand of hip hop they were listening to. Here's good old Johnny White coming through town with Kafka's theme blaring on the CD player. So
yeah. I did the same thing. I ordered the 7 soundtrack from Japan, and I remember calling up, I think it was Game Cave, I think the place was called, like that, and it used to be like in all the magazines and everything, and I called up, and I just remember being so thrilled that they put me on hold, and the hold music was like the Cosmo Canyon. And I just remember being on hold, like, do 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 do, and I was just so thrilled to have that. I was like, I'm gonna have that soon, and I ordered this soundtrack. It showed up, and I also remember being thrilled that it was 4 discs, and I was like, the game is 3 discs.
Yep.
How is the soundtrack? And of course, it's because it's not a sample that's just repeated. Like all the musical data's on there. But yeah, that was my. I still have that. That's like, I know Duke's got everything from when he was like a kid and everything. But that's like one of the pieces that I loved. I loved the whole experience of buying something like that.
Sure.
I did the same thing with the Metal Gear Solid soundtrack.
I did it with that one too.
So
Lunar
I
2 for
imported
me.
that one.
In the car stereo.
So we're all guilty.
Yeah,
awesome.
mine, Final Fantasy VI was my only one. I never ordered another soundtrack, so.
Well, as long as you leave that to me in your will, John, we're okay. I would probably kill for that. I would have to say that's one of my all-time favorite games ever. So
Yep.
And to have that sign, that's really pretty.
That is my favorite game ever, actually.
Yeah.
Nothing has dethroned it. That is my number one to this day.
I would say it's a good contender for me.
Mm-hmm.
So how does it feel after all these years to finally have your name in the credits of a game?
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. I remember actually the first time watching my little credits go by after I was done programming it with the music. Like, once I get the music going, I was like, oh. So you'll notice my name pops up in the credits like 3 or 4 times.
Yep.
So obviously I really liked it. Game programmed by John White. Writing by John White. Conceptualization by John White. Character design, John White.
So are there any secret game tips that are Easter eggs that you can share with the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, I think most of them have already been shared, Duke. But I mean, there's if you have the cart, the original cart, anyways, that I released on my own. There's the camp out level, and let's see what else. There's also a secret stage select level as well. Or no, excuse me, that was ridiculous. There's a secret stage select as well that you can unlock on the title screen.
And would you be willing to share that with our listeners here, what that code is?
I can give you a hint. It's like the most popular code ever, altered in a certain way.
So maybe something that would be similar to like Contra or something.
Yes.
Starts with up?
Yes, indeed.
I actually, not to sidetrack, but I don't have any tattoos. I have several friends with many tattoos, and they're trying to convince me. And my mom has a pretty firm rule saying, like, you can get as many tattoos as you want once I'm gone. So I have a lot of time. I have a lot of time to prepare because she's young and healthy. But
that's good. Though I'm so sorry to cut you off, but I so thought you were about to be like, my mom has the Konami code tattoo. I was whoa,
best mom
like
ever.
She might. So one of the things I always had as like a code that's been special to me is the Mike Tyson code. I don't know why I've always remembered it, but I always have, and I just always imagine like having 007-373-5963 just might be a cool set of numbers to have in that in that font, to have people be like, certain people would know it, just kind of get that knowing nod, and certain people like, what is that? Is that like the barcode to milk or something?
And 50 years from now, when they're putting you in the grave, they'll be like, what the?
Yeah. And then the guy like throwing the last shovel on and be like, yep, don't even have to deal with Super Macho Man.
So, John, do you have any plans to do any more games of any kind in the future?
Okay, so yeah, I probably won't make any homebrew projects in the foreseeable future, like within the next year or two, just because I'm really busy on other endeavors right now, like mostly learning newer, like relevant programming to eventually hopefully get a job in software engineering and make it go from a hobby to a job. So I'm doing a lot of stuff like working on .NET right now, learning that, learning JavaScript and Java to make mobile applications, online applications, that kind of stuff, because that's basically where the jobs are. So that's kind of what I'm working on with a lot of my free time that doesn't go to playing video games or reading or hanging out with my buddies. So homebrew projects, I don't know, I might play around with some demos here and there, but I can't imagine doing a whole full bore game for a while.
Oh. So, it'll give me enough time to to give it a try and maybe get halfway through the game. But
Woohoo!
yeah, I mean, we'll definitely let you know. So
There are Game Genie codes available, Bill, actually.
Ooh.
My buddy Hybrid posted some on Nintendo Age. So if you're like me, you'll love the Game Genie codes. It's how I got through probably 75% of my NES games.
So you kind of start with the codes, and you can like slowly scale back as you get better and better.
There you go. Yep.
Cool. Very, very, very cool. So yeah. So you mentioned before we're gonna have the info for the reprint from Airwalk Studios we're gonna link it in the show notes. And did you say how many they're doing, or we're not sure?
It's pretty much an open run right now.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, John, we definitely thank you for taking the time to come chat with us for a bit. Hopefully you can swing by RF Gen and answer any questions any of the listeners may have that we didn't ask. And yeah, good luck to you with whatever programming you end up doing, and hopefully we do get another game from you eventually.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right, so again, I want to say thanks to John White for taking the time to be on the show. We really appreciate having him on as our first interviewee. I want to thank you guys for being on the show as normal. So thanks, Krabby, for sticking around.
Anytime.
And Bill, appreciate you being aboard.
Oh, absolutely. Love doing it.
And for folks, just remember where you can find us. Obviously, our home base is rfgeneration.com. So come over, you can find the show thread. You can leave some comments. Check out the tools, the site if you're not familiar with it. It's a great bunch of people. You can find the show at collectorcast.com. So you just jump over there. We're on Twitter at Collectorcast. Now on Facebook, so you can like us there. Just facebook.com/collectorcast. You can find us on YouTube. Just do a search there for Collectorcast. We're on, of course, iTunes. You can subscribe there. And on Stitcher. So you can download the Stitcher app. You can find that just by going to stitcher.com/rfgeneration. We would appreciate it if you would put in the promo code rfgeneration when you download that. Helps kind of kick up our viewers over there a little bit. And do us a favor, on iTunes or whatnot, if you get a minute, if you like the show, review us. Let us know how we're doing. And if you like the show too, share it with some friends. Tell some other folks about it. Help us get the word out. And we definitely love doing the show for you and hope you guys enjoy it too. And until next time, we'll see you then.